Motion to approve.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there any discussion, concern with the minutes, modifications we need to consider? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And anybody opposed or abstaining? Hearing none, the meeting minutes are approved.
Excellent.
So with that, Melinda, we're going into the presentation on final revisions to the request for application document.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chair. All right, everyone. We do have our partners from Milliman here with us today. So we have Andrew and Luke are both with us here in Reno. I'm going to share my screen and get the presentation up. So one moment. Go.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for your thoughtful comments and review of the documents prior to the meeting. We really appreciate everything that everybody stated and provided. We're going to do a bit of a walk through how the RFA was revised based on the last discussion we had in December. The plan for our discussion will be to walk through some of the comments we received. And again, I think in keeping with Chair Bossi's comments about working towards a final approval document today, we'd like to walk through and determine, if there are things that are showstoppers, things that must be included, and things that could be included potentially via an FAQ or subsequent guidance document to the applicants. And so that's the framework for, I think, some of the pieces we want to walk through today. But I'm hopeful that everybody had a chance to review the materials that have been shared, that you're prepared to speak to them if necessary, but also that you feel a level of comfort with what's been changed and how those modifications have been made. So with that, can we go to the next slide, please?
There we go.
So just want to level set to remind everybody where we started with this. And so NBHA asked and partnered with us to go through and review proposed revisions to the RFA that would offer some clear differentiation between activities funded under this funding opportunity and other funding opportunities. Wanted to include language that would encourage applicants to work with the health authority to identify opportunities to leverage federal funding in future opportunities. Also asked to incorporate additional provider types in the partnership aspect of the application as community providers, FQHCs, RHCs, community practitioners, and clinics. Also asked to identify and have prioritization of high-need specialty and subspecialty care providers and increase transparency in the award process. If you recall from our last meeting, we did talk through each of these pieces. And so now we're going to walk through how each of those pieces were incorporated based on the feedback we received from the council, how it was incorporated into the subsequent changes to the RFA that you received last week.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, nowhere in the document did I see anything about quality of education oversight. And one of those things might just be an affiliation with one of the 4 medical colleges to be their academic partner. Just looking in the past history, we've had some programs that haven't filled, some that have closed. And I think that, maybe adding something for quality outcomes becomes important for our state. I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you for that. Okay.
I think, so this is Dr. Fry for the record. There's always, so I agree with that statement, but you always have to decide what you're going to benchmark that against, right? Because quality is an ethereal thing until you decide what foundational methodology you're going to use.
Yeah.
So.
And I think there's also something to be said for sustainability of a program. And I think to the extent that a program that was stood up and then maybe closed its doors or didn't continue to participate, there may be aspects of sustainability that the reviewers could look at with regard to what are the applicants' plans for how they're going to sustain the programs themselves. So just really quickly, want to walk through a summary of the elements that we did incorporate based on our December 3rd meeting. Just first and foremost, the funding distribution question, the council recognized that if they wanted to include an ability to prioritize or a stated preference for applications that do not exceed $3 million. Again, it doesn't exclude language or anything that would, any proposal that would exceed 3 million, but it just allowed for potentially more applicants to be passed through and approved by the council if that threshold was in place. And so you'll see in the document that that has been incorporated. With regard to geographic areas, specialties, and subspecialty providers, rather than define a listing of who, what types of providers the state would like to prioritize, we instead would just refer to Dr. Packman's research and understand which areas of subspecialties based on an academic study of the needs would be preferable, and allowing the applicants to look at that list and identify where within that list they would be targeting their funding opportunities. In identifying organizations eligible for grant funds, we did look at, and we included a citation to SB 262, just so that we were consistent with state legislation. And we also made, based on the council's recommendations, included community providers as well as veteran affairs and military providers and treatment centers as potential partners at training locations. Again, that was something that was mentioned by the council, and we wanted to make sure that that was incorporated as well. For transparency, and we'll get into this a little bit more with the scoring matrix, but there was a discussion about having final RFA scores and recommendations made publicly available based on the state transparency requirements. And so you'll notice that that has been included in the RFA as well as the scoring matrix. And there's an opportunity we think will be helpful to just have a final spot for the council to note their scores, note provide some rationale for why the scores were made the way they were. And so we'll go through that in a little bit as well. Grant funding optimization. Again, I think this was an area where we talked about having some boundaries between this particular funding opportunity and then where essentially this funding opportunity starts and stops, and then where future rural health transformation grants, for example, would begin. And so just allowing the grant criteria to really drive that bifurcation, but then also in terms of where the priority lied with regard to targeted populations, things like that. The council voted and we included in the RFA a desire to attract individuals who reside in or are interested in residing in Nevada, so in terms of having that criteria for the GME slots was important to the council, and so you'll find that reflected in the RFA. And then finally, leveraging additional federal funds. The health authority was explicit in wanting to include future funding opportunities to fund Medicaid payments for GME, where these slots are being created under this funding opportunity. So really creating a pathway for applicants to be targeted that can meet that requirement for NDHA and really set out some of those parameters. I did see a hand go up, but I saw it go down as well. Is there?
Dr. Raven?
Yes, thank you. I have a question about interested in residing in Nevada language. It is also, I think, listed on slide number 10. This is extremely subjective. Anybody can say that they're interested in residing in Nevada if they want to get something in return. I would really prefer to see something about being connected to the community. So maybe they did the bachelor's degree here, maybe they went to high school in Nevada, maybe their family resides here, even if it's not immediate family, but something that really has connection to the community that may indicate that those graduates will stay in Nevada after they finish their residency training.
Yeah, this is Chris Bossy. I agree with you about the subjectivity part. The piece that I had to remind myself when I read this as well is that we're describing something about should a program get funded and what the sponsoring institution's intent would be as they tried to fill the residency or
Yes.
fellowship, right?
Mhm.
So, if to the extent that whoever is operating the residency or fellowship, we're making a commitment and we're agreeing because we're accepting this funding that we will prioritize those individuals who indicate to us that they want to reside. I don't know what else we could do.
I think de facto, this is Dr. Fry for the record again, de facto, when somebody applies for a residency or a fellowship, they are basically saying they are interested, right? They are declaring that. And so I think that the language, it speaks to current reality.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Say the
Leo
rest.
Ray, for the record, I absolutely disagree with this statement. Residents usually, I'm sorry, graduates of medical schools apply to the residency training programs where they believe they have the best chance of matching to the program and getting the best education. Usually, the location where the residency is one of the lowest concerns among those residents. At least that has been my experience, and I've seen plenty of individuals coming from Southern California applying to our residency training programs because it's easier to get in and then move back to South Cal as soon as they graduate.
Gotcha. So, Stacy, did you have a
Can I-
comment?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Dr. Raven, but I think there's a way to go about it without creating, I mean, I think we just say that, we could, I'm just throwing this out there. We could say if you are taking on these practices and you commit to maybe asking students to make some commitment to staying in the community, or showing that they have ties and you're willing to do that you get additional points. I'm not saying
Well-
they're not eligible, but I think we should prioritize this because again, this goes back to what lawmakers and the governor and everyone keeps complaining about is that we do all this work and we do all this funding and everyone leaves. So I feel very strongly that we have to do something to acknowledge programs that are trying to address that. So I agree with Dr. Raven on this and would like to see some kind of incentive or ability to recognize those programs.
Leon Raven, if you don't mind me saying, can we just perhaps we just add one word instead of saying interested in residing, said objectively interested in residing, so that interest is not stated by the applicant, but objectively assessed by the program that operates residency or fellowship training.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
Allison, oh, I'm sorry, Allison, you had your hand up, I'm sorry. And Dr. Greer, you're next, and then Dr. Hopman's after that.
I fully agree with the
Netsky.
sentiment, but I also just want to be careful that we appreciate that these programs all go through the NRMP match. And so we have to make sure we're abiding by those criteria. I'll just use some programs, for example, that I've been very involved with where there are strategies involved, and perhaps the language could say, the program has developed a strategy to prioritize individuals, with ties to Nevada or something like that. But I don't think we could objectively say that you have to, that this would be practical and how you would then use that, knowing that you only have so much control going into the match. And so I think the making it implied that this is the purpose, understanding their strategy, having them state their strategy, but the objectivity of it, I think, will be hard to measure.
Thank you for that. Dr. Greer?
yeah, just that I sit on the Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine board, and we have a thing there called the Abigail Scholar. Being that it's a system in a medical school, they just joined with KP. But one of the things that we do is we go into the third year of the medical school students, find out what the system needs, and then offer them graduate opportunities with the condition that for every year of graduate education or plus, they come and work in the system at a fair market rate. These are areas of need within the federal government, and areas of need. Is there not a way that with systems there, we could work out that we can offer you a residency position on the guarantee that you will come work within this system after your graduate programs is completed.
Yeah, Dr. Hopman?
Yeah, so Joe, I think that's an after the fact
Right.
phenomenon. In other words, once an individual's in a residence, sorry, it's Paul Houghton for the record. And I agree with Dr. Netsky here. I mean, I think if we want applicants to this program to state that they will work diligently to attract medical students who have a connection with the state, I'm all in. But at the end of the day, the match is going to determine who comes into the program. So I don't think you can hold it against a program if they end up attracting all their candidates from South Carolina. I mean, not that that's going to happen.
No,
and then we have to be optimistic.
Not at all, but those programs are also based within systems that need physicians.
Right. So I think that, I think if we have applicants make, a checkbox and declare that they will work to attract and retain individuals who have a tie to Nevada, I think that's fair enough, and every program will likely do that, but their hands are tied by the match. And I think it would probably be a violation if the programs were forced only to list individuals with a tie to Nevada. Then we also could have programs that can't fill. So we have to be optimistic that once we attract individuals to the state, they stay. And John Packham's own data suggests that about 60% of residents will stay in the state, and that's agnostic to where they came from.
Yeah, but those are studied based on other cities that have infrastructures of hiring physicians and groups that bring them in, and cities that have 6 and 7 medical schools. So I think we need new strategies here to really bring them here and keep them here, and that's local. But my goodness, we have less than 400 students a year from the entire state applying to medical school that are Nevadan residents.
So just for clarity, Paul Hellman for the record, just for clarity, I can ask John to address it. The 60% figure is based on Nevada data.
Yeah, but it's a very small number. What's the total number?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Stacy, did you have an additional comment?
Yeah, I would just propose that we consider not making it, yes or no, but that we say to the evaluators to score higher in that portion if an entity has strategies for helping promote students to stay. I liked what Dr. Greer was saying. I don't see anything wrong with rewarding those types of programs that are really trying to think creatively about this. So I think I would propose that we vote on that at some point, and support that kind of strategy. It doesn't mean that other proposals won't be approved. It just means that we're giving some, and that's what's called, incentives and a scoring process that may incentivize more programs to be creative. Because we need to get creative. We have a huge problem.
So
Chair,
for clarity,
Chair Bossy,
Brian.
Chair
Yes.
Bossy. This
Yeah.
is Mason, for the
Thank you,
record,
Mason.
and I agree with Stacy when you spoke a few minutes ago around how do you incentivize or at least weight an application, because we do know, and I certainly understand the residency piece and the requirements around that, but take that to the fellowship piece. We know we've got fellowship programs that we fill that they don't stay, whether it's GI and some other things. So I don't want to be harsh, I'm trying to think of another word for penalty, but I like the word that Dr. Greer used was conditions related to their submission around what's their plan to retain and actually have some actionable items on recruitment, retention, and engagement in our community. So I think all these are really great questions, but I think we do need to, I would like to perhaps put that in a motion later on for a vote that, again, not penalties for those that don't stay, but incentives and conditions related to that. And maybe there's a bit of a slight repayment if they don't remain, and maybe that will entice more work around that. So that's just my comments, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Mason. I just, we need to be careful about what the rules are around residencies and fellowships, and I am certainly not the subject matter expert. And we will not be I mean, when somebody's a resident, they get a salary. So I'm not sure what repayment. So we're gonna have to be careful about how but I hear the tone, and the idea is we want to prioritize those applications that have identified key strategies to recruit and retain people who intend to stay in Nevada. So that piece I get, and I think we can vote on that later. I think Dr. Fry, you had a comment.
Well, just one more comment as we unpackage this, right? The presence of a strategy is a yes or no binary on an application, whereas an institution with a mature strategy could articulate that in the application. And so I think that we need to decide, do we want that level of articulation or not?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's what I'm saying. We need them to describe their strategies, and if they are reasonable and objective, then we should score them accordingly.
Yeah. Could I make a quick comment? I think
Please.
just calling back to the December 3rd meeting, this language that was added about residing or interested in residing in Nevada is replacing language that targeted specific populations, particularly populations, in underserved areas, things like that. And so in discussion from December 3rd, it seemed pretty clear that from the council's perspective, there were things that could and couldn't be within the control of the programs. And so this language was intended to replace that. And I think one potential option, given the breadth of the conversation, could be for the state to put out potentially even an FAQ describing, what are we looking for here? What is meant by this? But I think to Stacy's point, the whole point of an RFA like this and to have a scoring opportunity is for, as Dr. Fry said, to describe your program, describe your strategy, and then that would be how you would evaluate the opportunities. And so I think I just want to provide that context just to recall back to our December 3rd meeting. And I know that was something that Dr. Netsky was particularly influential in talking about. And so I just want to call attention to that.
One more little comment, Fry, for the record. We can also say, hey, describe your strategy and how it aligns with the governor's 3-year plan.
Yeah.
Because that is just opposite, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I hope that context is helpful.
Thank you.
All right. I think we can.
We finished the slide. Is there
we're-
any other comments related to the material here, separate from the focus on keeping residents in Nevada? Hearing none, I think we can move on.
Cool.
It's in Nevada.
There we go.
So just, again, I think what we wanted to do is provide that as a high level summary, but then provide you with a bit more context about what does it mean? How is the application, the RFA revised to reflect the votes of the council? And again, I think just reflecting the revised design, prioritizing applications that are preference for applications that do not exceed $3 million. Again, the language in the RFA explicitly states that applications above 3 million will be considered and scored based, but may not be awarded depending upon the volume and quality of applications at $3 million or below. So just want to provide that with that context. Application scores will be determined by the best proposals. It will determine the best proposals in alignment with state priorities, and will be considered by the council. To be considered by the council, all the applications must be deemed complete. Again, I think this is in alignment with the prior RFA that we have reviewed, but just want to make sure that was made clear to the council. The council retains discretion and subject matter expertise to review and make final recommendations. And the director of NBHA has the final award determination authority. Again, these were all pieces that we had discussed a bit during our last meeting. I just wanted to reflect back to you all that these were some of the revisions that had occurred as a result of that conversation.
And Fry, for the record, in thinking about this, because there's two portions that are binary, yes or no, they provided all the information for the application, right? There's
Yes.
2 sections on that.
Mhm.
I don't think that the whole council should be scoring if they don't have those 2 things done and complete. So is that going to be the screening 2-tier process?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is in the scoring matrix as well.
Yeah.
So, but I also want to, and we'll go through that during the scoring matrix. There are a few pieces under the 2 pass-fail elements that you may not have, like there may be applicants that submit that have not enlisted partnerships, for example. One of the requests was provide your list of partners. Who are you partnering with in submitting this application? If they don't have partners in their application, we don't want to penalize, based on their structure. And so if that's not, it's really an as applicable. You've identified your partners, you know who they are, check the box. If you don't have the partners, it would not be something that you would then penalize an application for. But I just want to call that out. There are at least one or two elements within the cover letter and the project abstract that are, submit if applicable, because we just don't want to penalize any applicants unnecessarily.
So can we separate those questions then? Because if there's a solid set of questions where they absolutely need to provide all that information, that's different than the subsequent questions maybe that are optional, if you will, based on what relationships they've developed.
Is there a process within the council's review that does a completeness review for the applications? I guess that's something I just want to make.
That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to reduce the workload for councils to really targeting those that have complete applications.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Melinda. Just want to throw this out there. Would it be helpful to the council if, Nevada Health Authority staff, say, myself and Dorian, went through all the applications and ensured they were all complete before handing them off to the council?
Yes.
All right. You got it.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah. We can do that.
And Paul Hapman, for the record, that's often called an administrative review, and they can be administratively withdrawn if they're incomplete.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Melinda, this is Stacy. Just real quick on that. Just make sure we work with Milliman to create a checklist. So in case somehow somebody gets thrown out and they're not happy about it, that we feel like we made the right decision before this, you know what I mean? So I just want to make sure we've got some sort of like checklist on that decision.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can move to the next slide. I'm sure. I don't want to interrupt your note.
No, good.
So onto the geographic areas and specialty and subspecialty providers. Again, I think we took the feedback from the council and just noted that within the application, applicants may address geographic areas, populations, or both as part of their application plans. And so one of the language tweaks was to include language that would just indicate that they're not required to address geographic areas and populations necessarily, but they can address whether or not their plans target a geographic area of the state or populations or both. And just to give some additional opportunities for applications, because if they're addressing, let's say they're in an area of the state that isn't, that may not have a geographic need, but has more of a population need. You don't want to discriminate against applications based on that. So just it opens up some breadth underneath the application process. We also did, we moved to generally refer to underserved areas and areas that have identified health shortages without really defining those terms. And I think the point would be then to have the applicants tell us how, or tell NDHA how they would be addressing some of those needs without putting specified parameters around, targeted area, or targeted population, or targeted health shortage area, but really allow the applicants to tell you what their strategies are to address the needs. Based on the discussion, we also allow the ineligible use of funds restriction on compensation for residents subsidized by any other funding sources to be a limiting factor on where those funds may be spent. And again, just going back to the rural health transformation funding, we want to make sure that that if there are subsequent opportunities, either federal or state funding that is authorized, that this wouldn't be duplicative of that funding effort. And then finally, for the specialty and subspecialty providers in particular, we're referencing Dr. Packham's research on high need specialty and subspecialty providers, just allowing the data to show where those targeted areas may be best included. So that language has been specifically incorporated into the RFA. Slide, please.
Now, of course, yeah. I had it.
For organizations eligible for the grants, again, I think this was an area we had quite a bit of discussion on, and there's been a couple of minor changes, but not anything real earth-shattering here. But we went back and reviewed the SB 262 language, affirmed that the language in the RFA does align with the state bill. We stated that preference will be given to applicants that collaborate with rural hospitals, community health centers, FQHCs, community practitioners, and other local entities that provide healthcare. We also included at the recommendation of the council, Veterans Affairs and military affiliated healthcare entities that may be included in the collaboration. Again, eligible applicants preference will be given to provide to applicants that commit to working with NBHA to identify future funding sustainability. And then the RFA also allows applicants to submit more than one application.
Excuse me, are we taking out the word accredited or are we expanding it?
I don't think we took out the word accredited,
Okay.
but I can verify that. For transparency, again, this was based on a vote from the council last time, but the RFA now specifies how each application will be reviewed and scored individually. It talks about applications being reviewed individually by council members and then having a discussion that would then allow for opportunities for individuals to amend their scores based on the discussion with other council members. And so it details how the council will discuss proposals before assigning and averaging final scores. And then final scores and recommendations will be made public. So that is now clear in the RFA that process is what will be followed. Oh, we have a hand raised.
I can't see who that is. Oh, Vance. Yeah, Vance, go ahead.
Sure. Good morning. I have a question. I guess it's more so for Stacy and Melinda. I'm wondering, now that we know what our federal allotment is under RHT, is there any thought process to what potential applications from our rural partners that may or may not receive funding through this process could secondarily receive funding through RHT, or are we keeping these completely separate in every aspect?
Let's see. We're keeping them, like, obviously the funding and everything is very separate between these two programs. We will have a rural residency program available through the GME funds under the workforce bucket throughout the 5 years. So that will be a separate program. I don't know if that answers your question, Vance.
It does. I mean, I just wanted us to be able to understand that for whatever reason, if there's opportunities where folks need to, where infrastructure or additional opportunity, that we do have that funding that can potentially bring other applicants up to funding, that we should keep that in mind.
Yeah. Vance, I'm thinking that the rural health transformation funds are probably so much larger than the total bucket for this program that I'm not sure that the rural partners will even be able to spend all those resources in residency programs, but I know more smarter people will be evaluating that. Stacy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, this is Stacy Weeks. Vance, that's a good question. We've been grappling with it and we're talking to CMS. I would just say that we're recommending, people to apply for both. I think also just remember that rural residency program isn't the only thing funded out of that bucket. So the bucket for workforce has a variety of things. So for example, we were just talking about programs that have strategies that can promote people to stay. They could say that they're applying for RHT funds to do bonuses and housing and all of that. Those things are funded through RHT. The unfortunate part is just timing here. We're doing our best to move as quickly as we can. And I think that's why, if we see there's an opportunity to leverage this big pot of federal funding for the next 5 years, we're going to leverage that first before we leverage the very small amount of money for this program. And also knowing that 5 years is pretty set. Obviously we have to apply every time, but it's $200 million, which is a lot of money. So hope that answers your question, Vance.
It does, and I thank you for that. I feel I can speak for just about everybody on the committee that whatever pathway forward we can go with the language and information in throughout this process that could be superimposed on that funding process as well, to ensure that the guidelines that we establish for residency promotion throughout the entire state can be promoted.
Yeah, good
Definitely.
point, Vance.
Yeah.
We are doing that
Melinda,
for sure.
I mean, we are, yeah, we are. And I don't want to jump the gun. I don't know if that's the right saying anymore, but jump to a conclusion here too early, but we're trying to hire a vendor to help us coordinate these two programs. And Milliman obviously was one of the vendors. So I think soon enough we'll be able to make sure that these two RFPs or RFAs that are going out and the variety of ones that we're going to be listing will be very coordinated. So that's the goal. We're just kind of in this like, bureaucratic process of getting there. But yeah, but we will definitely, Melinda, we should update the committee once we kind of have that outlined. And maybe Milliman team, you can help us think through how to best do that.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Stacy. Dr. Fry?
So I like what Van said. And Stacy, I agree. The less disparate these two processes are in terms of RFAs for the RHT as well as this program, the better, because the optics will be terrible if they are very disparate.
That's an excellent point. Any other comments or questions on the transparency summary?
No?
All right. Okay. Moving on.
Need a mouse.
On grant funding optimization, again, I think just following along with how the council. In the revised design, we specify that in the RFA that initiatives and programs that are eligible for RHT funding are not eligible for awarded RFA. And again, I think the comments just now highlight the challenges associated with that, but I think, making sure that that's front of mind, because again, you don't want to duplicate funding potentially where other areas, and that's something that CMS made very clear in their NOFO that was something that they would not allow the funding to be used for. So just keeping, from the start, that front of mind as the council is reviewing applications. Again, grant awards are intended to supplement, not replace or supplant other grant funding from the federal government. And then finally, again, I think as we discussed earlier, those two include residency slots for trainees points on the left side of your slide has been replaced with the include residency slots for individuals who currently reside or interested in residing in Nevada. And I think really the discussion we had earlier about that is reflective of some of the challenges you all clearly highlighted. But again, using the scoring opportunity to reward or identify programs that have very strong strategies that you all determine are reasonable is really important for how you review those pieces. And again, I think one of the options for continuing that discussion might be using a frequently asked questions document potentially to address what is meant by that phrase. That could provide some clarity to the applicants, but again, giving you all plenty of leeway to determine what is a reasonable strategy to address that need.
Questions, comments?
So again, I'm Paul Hapman for the record, a little concerned given that match that are we saying in that final bullet that there's a requirement to set aside slots for people in Nevada? I'm just trying to understand. Because
no, that's not what we're saying. I think what we're saying is we need the universities to help us think creatively about incentives to keep them here or other partners you're going to work with in programs. We all understand. We could even put in there, we're not asking a grant or people seeking grants to put in stuff that we know violates the process. We're asking for creative strategies because what's we've been doing in the state clearly isn't working. So we're looking for just anything that's creative. And if you don't have it, that's fine too. It doesn't mean you're not going to get an award. It just means we're incentivizing through the scoring process those that are thinking outside the box.
Stacy, Paul Hapman for the record, completely agree, and I think that's the right way to go. I'm just commenting on the last bullet in that box, which the way I read it seems to indicate that you're setting aside residency slots for. I mean, we can certainly incent programs to try to recruit these individuals into their residencies, but we can't use this as a metric because it's out of control of the program.
Right.
So maybe we have to say something like prioritize or something.
But can you at least prioritize with the residency I mean, we just don't know. Like, I know you still have to say to the entity, and I don't, you guys know this process, but you are asking for slots. Don't you say in there that you want some in Nevada? I think that's all we're asking.
Yeah, it's listed under the priorities. And again, the priorities I think are, that's the wish list, right?
Mhm.
For the applications, and they would detail how they might do that and address that priority through their work plan. But again, it's just kind of like stating upfront, like the state's goals here would include expanding the number of expanding opportunities for individuals that reside in or are interested in residing in
Right.
Nevada.
Right.
But it's not a criteria for, like, you will not receive grant funding if you don't.
I do
address the
appreciate the edit that Dr. Hontman is suggesting in terms of residency slots for individuals. We probably have to prioritize, each program will prioritize individuals who currently reside in Nevada or something, but we can't set aside slots.
Yeah.
Dr. Fry?
Yes, Fry for the record. So home ownership is an important thing for a resident in their, or a fellow in consideration of their being able to stay. And I'm just asking the question, not derailing the meeting at all. Do we have an adequate program for first-time home buyer for residents and fellows in the state of Nevada to create a sticky, retention for those folks? Because surprisingly, it's a bit hard to qualify for a home loan when you don't have good income demonstrated as a resident. It just is. And we've all experienced that as physicians coming out. You have to have special programs, I think, in place to have some retention in that regard.
Other comments?
Yes,
Dr. Raven?
Yes,
Sorry.
thank you. Leon Raven for the record. I was wondering if perhaps for the clarity's sake, if we could have a motion that would state that we're changing this language instead of saying include residency slots for individuals, say it, something along the lines that the program application includes strategies to attract individuals who are currently residing or interested in residing in Nevada.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll third it.
Okay, all right. Any other comments about this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? All right, nice work, guys.
So just so I'm clear, the bullet would say instead, include strategies to attract, strategies to provide residency slots. Will we remove the word residency slots?
You want to talk about the individuals because you can't control the slots.
Strategies to attract individuals.
Who are currently reside or interested in residing.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a
right.
preference there's a preference for programs that have strategies to do that.
Yes.
Sorry, just making a note.
No, good. I want to wait till you have it. So we don't have to talk about it again. Sorry, I'm being selfish.
All right.
Chris, this is why you're the chair. We love it.
I do we want to incorporate that into the scoring matrix as well? I guess I just want to raise that.
I think in the scoring matrix, the priorities are incorporated by reference under the work plan. So I don't know that it's specified, like it's specifically listed in the scoring matrix.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Verify for sure.
Right under the
Are we
government
good?
3-year plan, right? Because that's what you're trying to align with.
Yep.
Mhm.
Any other comments? All right. We changed the slide. We're good. We're leveraging additional federal funds. This is my favorite slide, by the way. Just so you know, Stacy, this is my favorite slide.
Also, because I think it's the next to last before the discussion.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So the federal funding, leveraging additional federal funds, again, NBHA was clear that there's a desire and a need to create sustainability and potentially leverage additional federal funding through these created slots. And what that does is it allows for increased both Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement potentially. And so just making sure that whoever the applicants are that they're committed to working with NBHA to identify those opportunities to include, you know, really just looking for and identifying where additional Medicaid funding opportunities exist. And so the language in the RFA now includes coordinate with awardees. NBHA may implement a Medicaid reimbursement strategy to provide enhanced reimbursement to provider settings, and it lists out a number of provider settings. NBHA may identify opportunities once grantees are selected to leverage state or local funding, potentially including IGTs from grantees that are units of state or local government. And then to the extent that a grantee has an existing GME program and will use the grant funds to expand their existing programs, NBHA may pursue federal regulatory pathways to make targeted enhanced payments to providers participating in the Medicaid program. And again, just leveraging additional federal matching funds where possible and giving NBHA and the applicants a real opportunity to do that.
Questions, comments?
Okay.
All right.
All right. So let's jump right into the discussion. So a number of you all provided comments to NDHA last week, and we really appreciate the comments and thoughtful comments that were received. I think we were deciding what to do with the comments that were received, and I think because we didn't get comments from everybody on the council, we didn't want to make wholesale changes without having an opportunity to discuss them here first. And so I think what we'd like to do here is use this as an opportunity to go through the comments that we've received. Again, I think going back to the residency discussion we just had, you know, are there opportunities where we want to make a change, or the council would like to recommend a change to the RFA? Is it something that can be included in a guidance document like an FAQ after the fact? Or is it something that's nice to have, would be nice to have, but is not necessary to the council's review? And so with that, I just want you guys to keep that in mind as we go through each of these. It's not to say one comment's good or bad, but just kind of let's decide collectively how the council wants to address the comments and how the council might want to make any additional changes to the document. So the first comment we received was regarding the due date. And the commenter suggested, given the length and complexity of the application itself, would advocate for pushing the submission date back again, perhaps to mid-May. A multiplicity of questions will require a lot of legwork by the applicants, and a 4-week delay should not demonstrably alter the overall timeline, and indicating that potentially, you know, there may not be a need to, you could curtail the council timeframe. And we talked about this a little bit. I think one of the challenges here is that June 30th funding date from NVHA is really, really important. And so I think that any changes that are made may have an impact, not just on the review timeframe, but on that funding date of June 30th. So with that, I want to open up to see if there's any comments, suggestions to make that change, or if it's something that would be nice to have, but given the timeframes, don't.
Try for the record. So I think a bit of a delay in closing out the RFA process may be beneficial if we also have a 2-tiered process in place, which it sounds like we will have with an administrative review initially, because then we want to push that back to those applicants and say, hey, you forgot a couple of things. Give them the time to fortify their application and resubmit potentially. I don't know how that feels to everybody, but it seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Fry. Melinda, for the record, I was wondering, because the June 30th deadline, and then we need to have some time to develop the subgrants to, you know, be able to award the funds, get all of the signatures and everything by June 30th. So just want to be mindful of that time frame. And so thinking about that, you know, the council could meet in mid-May and then provide their decisions, and then we can do, you know, the subgrant process then. So we potentially, you know, could push this back maybe 2 weeks. So maybe at that, you know, the end of April could potentially be a good timeframe, and then that would give us time to do that administrative review, you know, give you guys all the applications, and then have that meeting in mid-May where we go through and evaluate all the applications.
Stacy, did you have an additional comment?
Yeah, no, I think Melinda's correct on that. That one point, I appreciate us wanting to give people a second bite at the apple, but I'm going to be honest, it puts the state at litigation, risk of litigation significantly. We would have to give every entity feedback to do that. And my advice would be that you guys consider not spending all the money in year one and perhaps leaving more on the table, and then we come back out year two. So that's something for you guys to think about when you come back, when you're picking. If you feel like there might have been some that could have maybe done it better and you want to let them have another opportunity, but I would start it all over next fiscal year would be my advice. Yeah.
Paul Hapman, for the record, I agree with that. Question, when are we expecting public release of the RFA? That would maybe tell us.
February
Inform-
16th.
There you go. Thank you.
February 16th. So from February 16th, so we're talking about an 8-week period to apply. As long as everybody understands it's 8 weeks, if we feel that, you know, developing the partnerships and so forth can be done in that period of time, 8 weeks may suffice, 10 weeks might be better, but.
Additional comments? Right
Leon
now,
Ryan
Sorry.
Ryan, for the record. Is it possible to push the message out before even the application process is finalized to the program, so that at least they would be on the lookout and maybe get even some prep work done in anticipation of RFA?
Did you hear that, Melinda?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
can you repeat, Dr. Raven?
She's wondering.
Yes, sorry. I was wondering if we could have a message that we could push out to potential applicants about what we're working on, at least to get them prepared and maybe have some legwork done before we finalize the RFA process.
I mean, this is a public process, so everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Dr. Netsky?
Thank you. I was going to say something similar. From my formal communications, the main stakeholders are aware that this is happening. They're aware of the project, and I agree the information is publicly available for people that are very invested, that they already are tracking this information.
The draft was published on the GME website, right?
Yes. Yeah. And we're 2 weeks from issuing. So other comments? So are we basically, I just want to land the plane relative to this first discussion item. Are we okay with the 8-week time frame that we have here, or do we want to consider 10 weeks? And if we did, we are certainly taking it from somebody else because we've said the end date doesn't work. So is there a 2 week somewhere, Dr. Greer?
Yeah, I suggest we go with 8 weeks and see how it works. And if it works effectively, we're good. If it doesn't, we push to 10.
Well, I don't think we can do that in the middle.
No, not in the middle, but for the subsequent cycle.
Oh, I see. I got you.
Either way,
Stacy?
one of the two might not work.
Yeah, I got you.
I appreciate that. The Stacy weeks, I think we just split the baby, Melinda, and do 9, and do our best. I mean, I will admit the very last few weeks of us, you know, I think Melinda, hopefully, I think she was making this point, and I kind of cut out earlier, but it's a lot of administrative work on our end to get these things out the door. And so that's why there's so much time after the awards. But, and those things are unfortunately hard to control. We have to go to BOE, and I don't even know, Melinda, if we have to go to IFC again too. So I think we do our best to maybe just do 9 instead of 10 and then hope for the best. I mean, that would be my recommendation if everyone agrees.
Any dissent, any concern? Or can we move on? We don't need a vote, right? That's fine. 9 weeks, okay.
9 weeks.
Hearing nothing, we're moving with 9. Okay, workforce data source.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, the proposal due date will be moved
Up by 1 week.
we're gonna move it back. So like, it's not gonna be April, middle April, it's gonna be the third week in April, 7 more
It'll be
days.
by April 24th.
Okay.
And then Melinda, is it envisioned that we're gonna have a administrative review that is 1, 2 weeks? What do you think?
I would say that we can probably get that administrative review completed by May 1st, so by that following week, and then send those out to you guys. I would anticipate on May 1st, so that'll be a Friday, that we'll be sending all the applications to you guys. And then we can meet as a council, mid-May would be my hope.
Probably need to get something on the calendar,
Yeah.
hold something, yeah.
Good.
All right, next item.
All right, the next item was on the workforce data source. In particular, commenter noted that Nevada Health Workforce Research Center to the University of Nevada, Reno. Commenter stated that adding the Nevada Health Workforce Research Center at the will give a degree of separation from UNR, indicating that there might be some feelings about the data sources or the organization publishing them. Again, I don't know that I'm not familiar with the stakeholders in terms of how they might feel about it, but I wanted to put it to the council for review.
Dr. Netsky?
I just think we need to put whatever the name is, and I mean, it's very factual that this work is done from an office at UNR for the entirety of the state, and I don't think including University of Nevada, Reno or not changes the fact that it's for the state. So I just think we need to make sure the actual name, so if someone wants to reference the website, that it's easy to do.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Is there any other comment? So we're just going to make sure when we refer to it, we refer to the actual name.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you.
Under eligible uses of funds, one commenter asked, should we provide a bulleted list of eligible uses of funding like we do in the ineligible uses of funding below the section? It could be a simple list as a bulleted list on the budget line items contained in attachment D. Again, I think just wanted to put it out to the council to see if there was any strong feelings one way or the other. I think the budget form is pretty clear. Ineligible use of funds is fairly clear, but otherwise it seems like applicants would have a pretty wide berth to indicate what they're going to spend their funding on. So I just wanted to see what if the council felt strongly about that, or if it was something that could be done through an FAQ document after the fact.
That was my suggestion. I don't feel too strongly about it, but just when you're going through the guidance, you have a paragraph on here's what we're funding, and then you have a laundry list of ineligible uses, which is good. I'm just, those budget line items in one of your appendices, that could be your bullets. And it was just a little, get information a little early on in the application rather than wait to get an appendix. Yes,
Fair.
You're okay?
Everybody good with that? You can add a list based on the budget listing in attachment D.
Okay.
And then finally, one commenter asked about, having that 3 years to suffice to allow grantees to claim reimbursement for the grant funding. The current time frame is 4 years. It seems like the historic practice has been 4 years. And I wasn't, I think in terms of our review, we wanted to just make sure that this was put to the council to see if there's any need for an adjustment. But it seems like just flagging historical practice being 4 reasonable.
Any thoughts? Is there a reason to change? Does anybody? I mean, the money's going to be encumbered, so I'm just not clear if we care that it's 3 or 4 years to spend it. It's not like it's
I'll
gonna.
help it with, if I can, with the question, will programs, I assume that programs will have to file some sort of an annual report and update their budget and their plans for spending.
Mhm.
As long as that's in place. You don't want programs to, in 3 years, 363 days, start spending money.
Yeah, we will be on that. So we'll also be doing site visits and things with the programs and ensuring that the funding is being spent accordingly.
Any other comments? So I'm assuming we're not changing the current program. Is that fair, or does somebody have an argument that we should consider changing it?
The current is 4 years.
Yep, we're leaving
Considering
it.
3 years. But the consensus is we're not going to do 3 years.
We don't need to
We
change
don't need to
it.
change it. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it doesn't change the funds flow like it's already encumbered, so,
So we can stay silent on it.
okay,
Okay.
we're leaving it because we haven't heard why we would change it.
Thank you, everybody. All right. I think this one, so another commenter suggested so in particular, the language where it says eligible applicants would seek to create, expand, or retain programs for residency training and postdoctoral fellowships that are approved by the Accreditation Council for GME or its successor organizations on page 5. The commenter suggested that this requires some clarification. Programs in the planning stages are not yet ACGME approved or accredited. It seems that the criteria should be explicit in stating that for programs in the planning stages, a commitment to apply for ACGME accreditation is a must. Programs that are already in existence, they must be in good standing with the ACGME, i.e. fully accredited. Further, I think it is imperative that applicants and sponsoring institutions understand how to apply for ACGME accreditation, have an assigned DIO, and demonstrate a track record of successful applications. This was one, it seemed that, you know, we just want to make sure the council had an opportunity to weigh in. You all are, I would imagine, fully aware of the Accreditation Council's requirements for their GME approved and accredited programs. So just wanted to open it up for discussion. Is this something that must be specified in the application, or is it something that the council would be comfortable allowing the reference to fellowships that are approved by the Accreditation Council to be sufficient to encapsulate all of what the commenter is suggesting?
Dr. Netsky?
Thank you. So I believe that my impression was the original language was to require the development or expansion of programs that could be ACGME accredited. There are a group of fellowship programs that are not eligible for ACGME accreditation. They're just not part of that group. And so my impression was that we were sticking with this particular group. I think it is implied that programs will not be accredited at the time of application if they are indeed new programs, and that this is the seed funding for a new program.
Dr. Fry?
Yeah, Fry for the record. So I agree with Dr. Netsky. From the board perspective, Board of Medical Examiners, it becomes very problematic and almost the Wild West if you open this up to non-ACGME fellowships, especially because there's a lot of them out there nationally. It almost becomes like diploma mill kind of stuff. And it's real problematic for the state at the Board of Medical Examiner level. So I think we should stick with ACGME programs contemplated for the GME application.
And the current version of the RFA does say eligible applicants or institutions located in Nevada seeking to either create, expand, or retain programs for residency training that are approved. So I think it's implied. I get the point about it says that are approved. So I suppose.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
Someone that not, they're seeking approval.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Greer?
Yeah, no, I'm having been through one of these non-ACGME programs, hepatology, after finishing my GI fellowship. Some of these fellowships, just to keep in mind, might be things that are needed in the state. I mean, I do know that in GI, which you cannot be board certified in, but you can continue your fellowships in hepatology, pancreatic, and advanced endoscopy. But you don't get certified in that. You just graduate from the program. And those are all things that are aligned with modern medicine that, you know, just to keep in the back of our minds.
Can I just ask a layman question?
Yes, ma'am.
and I'm asking it to the group, I'm not sure who the subject matter expert is. Would it be appropriate for us to say ACGME accredited programs where accreditation is available and other like fellowships? There may be other fellowships that don't, that there aren't ACGME, and that would be okay. But we only want accredited programs to the extent they exist, I guess is what I'm saying in an awkward way. And then there might be fellowships that we would also want that would not be, because there is no ACGME accreditation for those.
And
Would that be?
that's why we need non-MDs to resolve the problem. I like your suggestion a lot. I think it's really, really good, number one. Number two, leaving it the way it is would just make it really easy, but I think your idea is good. But that's just my comment.
So Dr. Hotman's got a face that I can see.
Yeah, Paul Hotman, for the record, I would be a little concerned in this first go round, because it would be hard, I think, for the panel to judge a program that's not listed with, that would not be accredited by the ACGME at this juncture. I think the highest quality programs, admittedly, I mean, you can have vascular surgery as a typical example where you have a fellowship that may not be ACGME accredited, but for use of state funds, I think it just looks better that these are fully accredited programs. The other issue is the difference between the actual program being accredited and the institution. There are two levels of accreditation. There's institutional accreditation and then programmatic accreditation. So a question for the group would be whether we require that a applicant demonstrate their knowledge of this and or that they are already actually ACGME accredited as from an institutional standpoint.
So Dr. Netsky, and then there's a hand in the Las Vegas conference room, which I'm guessing is Dr. Raven, but I don't know.
Thank you. We have so many fellowships and programs that are in the ACGME bucket that we need to expand or need to create, that I think it is to make it an easier, safer process in this particular process for the next couple of years to stick with that.
Thank you. Whoever's in the conference room in Vegas.
Yes, it's Ross Berkeley. So yeah, it may be easier it may just come down to semantics and phrasing, but it may be easier just to say that if a program is not eligible for ACGME accreditation, then it is not eligible for this funding. I'd also make it like an exclusionary criterion rather than trying to figure out how to word it of what is allowed. Let's just make it that you're not allowed to apply for this if the program you're seeking is not eligible for ACGME accreditation.
Okay. Is there anybody who has I love the simplicity of the way you just said that. Is there anybody who has a concern with that? At least for the next couple rounds. I mean, later we can get bougie and we can add different things, but we have a while probably before we're investing in other programs.
Yeah.
Dr. Greer?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, we really need to emphasize the quality outcomes, because that's what we're looking at, is the outcome of physicians that are highly trained. And I would put, an academic affiliation as a plus point. If you have a program and you're affiliating with an academic institution, undergraduate medical education, I did that at Jackson Memorial Hospital, the second busiest hospital in the country, and it was at Jackson Memorial and the VA system with the University of Miami. And that's how we did all our programs down there, and it worked out really well. But I mean, I'm just saying that having an academic program, having an academic oversight just helps getting you to good quality.
So for the record, I appreciate those comments. I just think that there is a lot of simplicity in what Dr. Berkeley suggests in creating a defined threshold, if you will, for applicants.
Any other comments? Dr. Netsky?
I also appreciate the sentiment, but I don't think it's almost like a backwards requirement then where our four medical school institutions would be required to have to partner. And I just think this process would be it would be a difficult way of requiring that of them for other institutions in the Valley that maybe they don't contractually have the ability to partner with. And so I just think it is, would have to be a discussion with those parties.
I agree, but I'm not saying that the schools are required to do so. I'm talking about the institution reaching out to have an academic oversight. For goodness sakes, if they want, they can be like, if they're based in Philadelphia, bring in Temple, but have an academic oversight to assure quality.
This is probably for the record. I'm going to make a motion that we adopt the exclusionary criteria put forth by Dr. Berkeley in his phrasing. That can be, I guess, restated.
Yeah, so programs not eligible for ACGME accreditation are not eligible for these grant funding opportunities.
Yeah, I make that in a second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any additional conversation about ACGME accreditation requirements for programs that are eligible for this funding? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? All right, and I think I'm just going to say it. I think that Dr. Greer, your comment, I appreciate your comment related to academics, but I kind of agree with Dr. Netsky, and I feel like there probably needs to be a broader discussion with all the programs at the table before we take any other step that might change requirements. I don't know. Does that make
I
sense?
would too. And with the academic thing, my only thing is not the requirement that you have to have a medical school on there. It'd be nice. But what I'm trying to say is I want to have the highest quality where I live, period.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And how do I assure that, especially in the continually changing evaluation that we have to have as required by the ACGME, the fact that the academic institutions actually have libraries, they actually have sim centers, they actually have all these things that these institutions can use to better train their residents. And, you know, from that, I don't disagree at all with what you're saying. I think it's good. I just wanted to bring that quality aspect into it. And you know, let the state know, you know, take advantage of us. I mean, I'll state right now, Roseman is not interested in running GME, but we are very interested within the academic thing. We had done that in South Florida for quite a few institutions, quite a few health systems, and you know, we're more than willing to help with that. But my end point is quality. Let us get the best.
Yeah. I appreciate what you're saying, and we may need to have a discussion about some sort of quality kinds of reporting that might be ongoing requirement in the program. I think it will be hard to gauge quality as part of the application process since the programs don't exist, but or maybe they do, but so I guess for expansion of existing programs, that could be a thing, but it would be hard to decide the funding based on quality metrics of a program so we may have to have a different conversation about that. But a good thought.
I just say, I mean, I support what Dr. Greer is saying theoretically. I mean, but to obtain and retain ACGME accreditation, you'd have to demonstrate that you have core faculty, that there's scholarship, that there's simulation, all those things. So to some degree, it takes care of itself with AC. I mean, it's ideal if you're partnering with an academic institution that is experienced and can provide those resources. But if you don't, but you have those resources, you could still potentially have ACGME accreditation.
Oh, that's a good
No,
point.
and I agree with all that. You guys, I just think that we need to emphasize quality outcome. Outcomes are just so important. And we have the opportunity in this state that other states do not have. And I would like to see what happens in Vegas, the world gets to know.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Greer. Are we ready to move?
Let's do it. So next commenter inserted the word graduate into indirect medical education phrasing. Again, this was within the context of, it was discussing Medicare's direct graduate medical education and indirect medical education payments. And so I don't know if the council has any strong feelings one way or the other. We kind of viewed it as a term of art under the Medicare program for like what they would otherwise call IME, but no strong feelings either way. Wanted to just make sure that, see if the council felt strongly one way or the other.
I think the addition makes sense.
Okay.
Any other comments? Next item.
All right, the next item is related to the number of applications any one institution may submit. Commenter just stated, I think any one sponsoring institution could apply for up to 3 programs. The current application does not specify a limit. It just says they may submit more than one. And I just wanted to see if there's anything that the council had to offer with regard to a limit there. Again, I think as we discussed earlier, the legwork and lift associated with submitting even one application is large. So I'm not sure that,
The risk is high.
what are the odds they're going to get
Right,
3?
for the record, I would just add, for clarity, 3 programs per cycle, because then it's defined.
Does anybody else?
Per funding cycle.
Any other comments? Any other comments? About
that
3?
makes sense. Three per cycle makes sense. It is a big resource consumption one, but yeah, three is great.
Any other comments?
So adopt that particular language. Sponsoring institution may apply for up to 3 programs per funding cycle.
Yep.
All right. And the next question, just stating, to the extent that a grantee is eligible, so the language in the RFA states, to the extent that a grantee is eligible for reimbursement from the state Medicaid program, the grantee must commit to coordinate with NBHA to implement a Medicaid reimbursement strategy. One commenter suggested the VA programs in the state contribute to GME programming, but to my knowledge, none of them have a standalone residency or fellowship program. Suggests we encourage applicants to include VA facilities in their plans, and they can include letters of support from VA hospital directors, but not consider standalone programs. The current language talks about partnerships with Veterans Affairs facilities, and I think that the way that it is incorporated implies that there is a priority and preference for applicants that can receive Medicaid funding on the back end, but it is not an exclusionary limit to eligible applicants. And so I just put to the council if there's any strong preference to specify any further in the RFA.
I think the applicant, for the record, the applicant should be able to fortify their application anyway, and I think this is a really good fortification of their application, which demonstrates sustainability.
Well, and I mean, we already are talking about partnerships up front, and so if it makes sense to have VA included, you would, and if it didn't, you wouldn't. I don't know if we need to state it separately. Their question, was it Dr. Raven?
Not so much a question, but a comment. VA is not the only entity in Nevada that provides funding for residents outside of traditional Medicaid reimbursements. We, with the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, a major partner both for UNR and UNLV psychiatry residency training programs, and we try to expand it. We have a hospital, though, hopefully expected to be built by fall of 2029, which is going to more than double our bed capacity here in Southern Nevada. And those funds, if allocated by the legislature to run those hospitals, could potentially be used to expand graduate medical education, postgraduate medical education at our facilities. again, the hospital is a few years from being built, but I can foresee how future expansions may include community partners, including the state, to support long-term viability of that postgraduate medical education.
So with that, do we need any statement like this? Because VA is not the only one. Should we just all recognize that partners are partners and we should include them? Or?
Well,
There's strong partners.
I think we should, and frankly, a few years ago when UNLV program was going through expansion of their psychiatry residency training, the Division of Public and Behavioral Health provided a letter of support stating that the state was willing to finance in the long run some of the FTEs for psychiatric residents at our facilities. So there is a precedent, and there is a strong likelihood that this kind of partnerships will continue or even expand in the future.
Dr. Netsky?
I think the language previously in the application emphasizing partnerships encompasses DBPH, VA, and other. The detail will be in the financial support for sustainability. So I don't think we need to add any more detailed language.
Anybody have other comments about that? Hearing none, let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Under the needs assessment, under item A1 on page 9, one commenter added the underlined text saying, rather than saying local labor data, saying county or multi-county level labor data benchmarked against state and national data where possible. I just wanted to see if there's strong feelings about including that additional text in the needs assessment section under A1, page 9.
So Fry, for the record, this is where words matter, right? We have the state benchmark, right, with respect to workforce. What national benchmark are we talking about? You know, I believe there's a few different, sources out there.
We'd
have to decide.
We have John's report does the state and then also pulls in the US average. So we can see where we sit compared to the US average. And so that seems directional in nature and seems reasonable for the work that we have. I don't know if folks feel more strongly.
I just want to call out the actual.
That's my suggestion, forgive me. Maybe over wordsmithing this. All I was saying is define what you mean by local. Some people think the state of Nevada is local. And is it a county? Is it Washoe or Carson City? It's not. I think I'm trying to complicate.
I think your schedule in the back works simply and perfectly, and I would hate to.
Well, I think we refer to by referring throughout to that attachment, but also to the research, like any updates to that research. It seems like that would be incorporated by the fact that is the stated priority in the RFA.
Okay. Other comments? All right. Next.
One commenter highlighted the element describing areas of the state that were the fellows we placed, indicating if it's a rural or non-rural area, and identify individuals served by the residents. Fellows will be from rural or non-rural areas and follow the definition of rural areas in the HRSA guidelines. Commenter asked if they're being placed in rural areas, wouldn't this funding application be ineligible for funding and redirected to the RHT? And I think the general feeling that we had was I think you can't really decide if it might be overlapping with RHT if they don't tell you where some of those locations might be. So our general feeling to our general kind of consideration for the council here would be if their information is provided, it might give you a better opportunity to weigh whether or not there is overlap. But again, we want to just make sure the council had an opportunity to weigh in.
So the bottom line is there might be rural rotations buried in residency that the group, we might not know, and we might fund it where it could apply for RHT. And to the extent it is not highlighted, that's likely what we'll do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
Okay.
just it's a transparency piece where if they're gonna tell you where they plan to place people, it might give you a better opportunity to really weigh that against existing or other
Yeah.
RHT.
I mean, I would hope the people applying would have enough line of sight to recognize the limited resources in this pool compared to maybe slightly more resources than the other, and they'd apply in the right, in the right bucket.
Yeah.
But
So we're talking about underserved, right? I mean,
Yeah.
whether that's rural or underserved urban,
Exactly.
it's just underserved.
It is.
You know.
And just indicating where is a function of identifying underserved, identifying where people are gonna be placed,
Right.
and understanding that balance.
so are we, and anybody have any issue? I mean, noted, is there any changes that we need to make? Yeah, I don't.
Just up to the council if there is, anybody feel strongly about that?
Okay, hearing none, moving
All right.
on.
And then letters of support, just within, the commenter requested, are these, just to confirm, these are not typical letters of support, rather they from all project partners and collaborators, correct? And that is, I believe that is accurate. The letters of support that are being requested are from partners, and collaborators on the project. Just wanted to put that out there, but if there's any feeling one way or the other about adding additional clarification, again, it could be done through an FAQ. It could be done if you get any questions from, potential applicants. It could be a response that the state provides.
So I would say that Paul happened for the record that at the very least in the FAQ.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want are, medical students writing, I mean, it's all fine, but really
Yeah.
the letters of support have to be the programs you're working with and
Right.
collaborators as opposed to, or, letters of support from the community saying we'd love to have a residency program here. I mean, that's great. You can include those, but it's absolutely required that if you have partners and collaborators that they
know it.
That they know it, exactly.
Well, should we just add that to the RFA then? It says, that's the intent. It's just
Yeah, just clarification that it's from, just what it's currently. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it says applicants are required to submit letters of commitment from each partner, University Board of Regents, or other participating entity. So it does provide some parameters around who it would be from, and just wanted to make sure that that's clear. So I think that should be sufficient.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's all right. So these were, I think some of them were just comments about that might be for NDHA, but one commenter asked, will there be a specific format and specific data elements be included in the report, just for the regular reporting requirements? Commenter supported the idea of regular quarterly reports. Initially, that transitioned to annual reports. And so just wanted to flag for the council. I believe when we talked about it, it seemed like NDHA had indicated that there would be a standard format for the quarterly and annual reports. All right.
Yes.
Yes.
There have quarterly annual reports.
So quarterly and annual reports are, okay.
Okay. I don't know that there's much to discuss there other than I think NDHA is spearheading the data element reporting components of that.
Yeah.
You do have one person asking for a touch base with regard to how the data will be collected annually, and just might be something to.
That was really,
later on.
for me, it was a comment to Melinda. I should have been related to.
Oh, it's all right. It is all right.
Okay.
And then one commenter asked under attachment A, and I think Dr. Packham, you are uniquely positioned to answer the question, but on attachment A, under the form list, there was a question about the quantification and like any clarification on what is meant by the number of physicians in Nevada in that second box in the column. I'm sorry, it's page 17.
17.
It's the summary page. It's just the number of docs licensed probably. You're just counting the people?
That is. Yeah, that's just licensure counts.
Licensure counts.
To reside in Nevada.
Okay. And since
There's
that,
about 7,000 more that don't reside, we don't. Not remaining, so.
okay. Yeah, and I think that this is an image from the study itself, and so I don't know that we can make any change. We don't want to make any changes to a published report. So I think in terms of having clarification here, we thought might be best rather than making any changes to the doc itself. So just flagging for awareness. Okay.
That's it.
So are there any outstanding questions? I think the general sense, if I could just run through really quickly, the changes that we did here based on the comments.
Thank you.
So the first was revising the reside in or interested in residing in. It would be revised to say, it would be prioritizing applications that include strategies to attract individuals who reside in or are interested in residing in Nevada. That's the first edit. Next, we have the due date will be adjusted to April 24th. We affirm that we will add Nevada Health Workforce Resource Center to the reference to Dr. Packett's research. We will add a bulleted list of eligible funding based specifically on the budget form that appears in the attachment. We're going to remain 4 years of funding. We're not going to change that. Under the eligible applications, we're going to include language for ACGME that says programs not eligible for ACGME accreditation are not eligible for this funding opportunity. We're going to modify the term indirect medical education to now read indirect graduate medical education. Under the eligible applicants, we're going to add language that states applicants may submit more than one application, but we're going to add language that says up to 3 programs per funding cycle. We're not going to make any changes. We're not going to make any changes associated with that VA edit comment that we had. And then letters of support, the language in the document is sufficient. If any further clarification is needed, we can make an FAQ.
And can I circle back? Was there also, there's some discussion of adding like an administrative review process to, you know, like.
Yes.
We might want to update the.
No, you please finish.
So we might want to update the description of the process in the RFA just to add that step of administrative review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can look at these. So it would be in the under section 5.
And clarify that the administrative review is in or out of, is determining whether applications will be scored or not,
Based on.
but not getting feedback. So.
Correct. And I would say, just to give Melinda and Stacy some latitude here, we don't define that as a specific time period.
Yeah.
You know, because if we say it's a week and then the work, some town needs 10 days, I mean, I just don't want to put them in a pickle.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
Just make sure. We have language, I think, in the scoring matrix that talks about.
So just one moment, I'm going to ask you in just a moment for a motion and a second and a vote on the changes that were just identified. But just 1 second while we figure out if we need an additional modification.
I think it may be beneficial to add that and indicate who's going to do it. In the scoring matrix, which we'll discuss in a moment, there's a section that says, before you begin, please review the grant proposal package for completeness. A checklist has been provided to help with this step. If the proposal does not include all sections and attachments listed below, do not proceed with scoring. It doesn't indicate who would be doing that process. And so if we want to indicate that it would be NVHA, it might just be beneficial to add language to section 5 that says NVHA will review each application for completeness and then pass completed applications to the GME Council.
That sounds perfect. Anybody have any concern with that modification? to the application? Hearing none.
Looks good.
Oh, go ahead, Mason.
No, I'm sorry. I was just saying, it looks good. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion
Motion.
on the? Thank
Raven,
you.
Raven,
That was
second.
Dr. Raven. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Dr. Fry. Any additional comment to the modifications just summarized? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed or abstaining? All right,
Awesome.
Okay.
the vote is complete.
Excellent.
We have a document, an RFA.
Yay. Congratulations, folks.
Yes.
All right. And we'll make those modifications and we'll work with your team to make the modification.
Perfect. I'm going to start the next presentation.
Yeah. Sorry for moving through this so quickly. I think we should just jump right into it and then
Yes,
keep on our time schedule.
I think that's right.
Go.
Okay. So just first of all, thank you all so much for thoughtful comments and feedback on the scoring matrix itself. We did take all that feedback into consideration and made some pretty considerable changes to what you saw last time, and I think it's for the better. And I think that hopefully you all will like what you see, and we can move ahead with approving this document as well. All right, so just a level set, I think, just to summarize where we are now from where we started back in December. The feedback we received last time was the included point total was too high. It included a minimum point threshold that would exclude applications from being considered. It included too many pass-fail elements and did not provide council members with a uniform scoring methodology that ensured consistent reviews across all applications. Again, I think feedback was well received, and I think we made some modifications to address each of these points, which we can go through a bit in a second here. Next slide, please.
All right.
That's a good. Ooh.
Stand by. Okay.
We got a bit of feedback. Does somebody have two lines open? Is your computer
It was
muted?
supposed to be me. Stay.
Oh, you might have to mute the sound on.
She's trying.
Did. Sorry, guys. Okay, we got it. It's good.
Okay.
Let me go back to sharing my screen. Oh my gosh. What a day.
You're doing great, Melinda.
Hey, Dorian, no offense, man, but the view from this office is a little nicer than.
Than the Vegas office. Definitely. I don't know how you got to sit on that side of the table.
I asked her where the jump seat was in case they needed to make a quick getaway.
All right, there you go.
All right, so we'll focus on the January proposal, but just for awareness, just wanted to provide you with an overview of where we started, what was modified, and then finally where we landed with the newest, which you have in front of you today. And so just to summarize quickly, the aggregate total is now at 100 points. There's no minimum scoring threshold for the applications. It reverts to the original pass-fail elements, which was limited to cover sheet and project abstract. And it follows more closely along with the original point distribution from the very first iteration of the RFA. It includes a scoring rubric, which gives you a nice uniform method to evaluate and score points, which aligns with the HRSA point metric that is also included in your application. It aligns the evaluation criteria across all elements of the program with the program goals and priorities, and it more evenly distributes the allocation of points across the various RFA sections. So you'll see as we go through, there's quite a bit to go through here, but let's just dive right in. So again, this is just a restatement, very similar to what we just saw. It does the priorities. The one I want to just point out is the priorities largely have been incorporated into the work plan and the sections for scoring, but it doesn't, as you review and as you go through each of the elements of the scoring scoring matrix, you all will be able to evaluate, the applications against the criteria that are outlined in the RFA, and you'll be able to score according to what you see, the quality of the application, things like that. So at the top, I want to cover just quickly the difference between the original proposal that you all had in front of you, and then now the new distribution of points based on the feedback we received. Just noting again, cover sheet, project, abstract remain a pass-fail. The budget plan and budget narrative are worth a total of 15 points. The project narrative as a whole is worth 80 points, and that 80 points is made up of 20 points for the needs assessment, 10 points for the feasibility analysis, 20 points for the work plan and impact analysis, 15 points for data collection and evaluation, 15 points for sustainability, and then 5 points for letters of commitment. The big area of difference here is that the prior application allowed for like an extra 5 bonus points for hitting priority areas. And in order to meet the 100-point threshold that the council had set out, we needed to fold that into the project narrative itself. So now you would simply use those priorities and measure the applicant's work plan, their sustainability, their feasibility against the priorities that have been outlined for you in the scoring matrix. Slide, please.
Leon Ryan, for the record, can we go back for a second? I have a question about pass-fail. Is that an absolute outcome? So let's say if an application fails on either of the first two categories, does that mean that the entire application is thrown away? The entire application is thrown away. The entire application is thrown away. The entire application is thrown away.
Oh, what'd you do?
Sorry. Wow.
It's okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Sorry, my laptop went off mute.
So that would be so just for it's to make sure that all the elements of each of those components are included. That would also be part of the completeness review that will be completed by NVHA before. If you get an application that has, say, like just the name of the application on it and there's no other information that's included, that likely would be something that falls out from the completion review. However, what this is really designed to do is to make sure that all of the elements of the application, that all of the reviewers agree that the elements are included. And so, yeah, it would be pass-fail, and it would likely mean that the application is thrown out. However, those are things that will be included in the completeness review. So you shouldn't have any applications that don't have all those elements included. So it's just a means to make sure that, if the council says this is required, that the application includes it, and it just documents the council review those pieces.
So in this case, if the applications are going to be pre-screened for cover sheet and project the abstract, should we even, as council members reviewer, be paying attention to that pass-fail or not? I'm trying to understand who at the end of the day decides on that pass and fail.
Just part, yeah. I mean, I think that it would be part of the like as you're reviewing, it would be and we have a slide that talks about the cover sheet and project abstract, and it's just to make sure that the information you've asked for is included.
Yeah, I think that would get moved to the administrative review process.
Could have it moved.
That would be
Okay.
That's what the intent was adding that essentially.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Can I ask a question about the point scoring? And I know that fellow council members won't kill me for saying this. When I look at that, the 20% of it on needs assessment, in my humble opinion, I don't think you're going to have difficulty demonstrating need.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering if more points could be allocated for feasibility of the work plan. Just that to me is like how you're going to sell it. It's not going to be difficult, I don't think, for most to demonstrate need. But boy, can you really pull this off?
But do you think I guess my point of clarification would just be if the applicants I mean, part of the challenge is the applicants need to also identify the problem that they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And so if you take points away, does it remove, and they would be deprioritizing the problem definition. And so I'm wondering if you take points out of that, does it give them a pass to say like, there's a well-known problem within the state, everybody knows it, and they just kind of forego those points?
Yeah, I'm not dismissing, I'm not dismissing the problem, but I'm just saying, we want these to succeed.
Sure.
And it's, if there's more onus put on demonstrating how this is feasible, I mean, I've been around enough just to know that these are heavy lifts. Every
Yeah.
single residency or fellowship program proposal is a heavy lift. I've seen one rural fail, and to me, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Hotman?
So in the upcoming discussion points, one of them, at least one of them is mine, and it had to do with the point distribution. So I guess the question, because I also have some concerns about point distribution in particular, really it lines up well with what Dr. Packham is saying. If you want to really judge whether a program understands the complexity of setting up a residency or fellowship program and maintaining it, we have to look much more critically at the budget. Because how one spends money in setting up a program reflects that program's knowledge base.
Mm-hmm.
So I was advocating for increased attention to the budget, and you could argue the feasibility analysis would be part of that as well. So if we bulk up feasibility and bulk up the points for budget, I think we really get some further insight into the degree to which the applicant fully gets it.
Gotcha.
Because this is complicated. This is a complicated business.
Sure.
Thank you. Stacy?
Hey, this is Stacey Weeks for the record. I agree on this one. And I'm sorry to the Milliman team. I didn't say this sooner when we chatted. I think there does need to be more weight. And I think budget plan and feasibility to me are almost the same thing in my mind a little bit, because if they can't put together a budget plan that's going to be able to cover their costs, it's not feasible, right? So I guess I'm trying to figure out what is feasibility analysis versus budget. Could someone maybe help me understand? And I'm sorry if you already said this because I had to hop off for a second, but I'm curious if we can maybe distinguish those two real quick.
Fry, for the record, I agree with you, Stacy. I think they can be rolled into one category, frankly.
To move feasibility into.
Just call it budget and feasibility, you know?
Okay.
Yeah,
But
because I don't care
so,
about a narrative. I mean, people can talk good all day, but if their numbers don't add up and they don't really have
Can you
a
raise my
budget.
hand?
Sorry. I think, yeah, would that give us 35% then on budget? That might be nice.
Yeah. Is there a comment in Las Vegas?
Yeah, it's Ross Berkeley for the record. So one of the elements that may be worth considering from the feasibility standpoint is, on paper, the financial aspects may work, but from a feasibility standpoint, in terms of removing clinically active physicians from monetary generating work to academic roles may not be realistic in terms of what they might see on paper versus what might actually work for long-term feasibility, willingness of somebody to sacrifice the financial aspects and the time. But we've seen that at least in some of the things in our own development of our own residency, where it looked great on paper, but it took a lot of work from a leadership standpoint to be able to convince people that they need to make those sacrifices if there's a financial sacrifice in there. So there may be some value in maintaining a feasibility analysis separate. I'm not married to that on a hard scale, but I do think it's worth at least considering.
Stacy?
That's very helpful. Thank you. I wonder though, if we say, because what I hear you saying, it's really the maybe I'm wrong, correct me here, feasibility of the work plan and the resources. And I feel like we could take some of the make sure that they put that in their work plan, because wouldn't we be looking for that in their work plan, that they have thought through how they're going to have the faculty they need, all those things, and maybe assess feasibility there, and then move some of those points up to budget? Because I think, or like business plan, really, it's like, can they really pull this off, right? And I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there, and maybe it's fine, but I'm trying to figure out which of the two, how different they are.
I think that's a great point. And I like that idea too, of rolling that into work plan and maybe a little bit to the budget.
So one thought on the feasibility analysis, just noting, like, back to the discussion we had about the ACGME accreditation, feasibility, at least the first half of feasibility, really captures information about existing programs and, you know, how many slots are currently being provided, how are they, like, just having them describe their current program and like their capacity to move forward with additional slots if needed. And so there are two scoring elements within feasibility. The first is describing your existing program or describing a new program you plan to stand up. And the third piece is describing a payer mix at your institution, including like just talking about how many people are being served based on the number of slots that you have currently provided. So like it's measuring in a way capacity. And I think it does capture that very important ACGME piece in a certain way. And so I'm wondering if there's, like, I think to the point that was just made, like there is a need for some level of feasibility analysis. There's a point total of 5 points for description of the payer institution. If that's not relevant or not necessary information, it does free up 5 points that could be moved elsewhere if needed, but want to flag that for discussion.
So it sounds like we would like to consider taking some of the points from the needs analysis, maybe, I don't know, half. And we'd also like to maybe marry feasibility and budget.
What I heard was, let's take 5 to 10 points from needs assessment and put them in budget, because we should prioritize budget over almost everything else. As that is what's going to initially make or break most applications.
Thanks, Dr. Raven.
Yes, so I'm looking at the numbers. So if feasibility is going to be merged with budget, that would also transfer 10 points from project narrative to budget. So like bumping it up to 25.
Yeah.
Is that sufficient? I'm curious what other committee members are thinking.
I think the needs assessment is fairly perfunctory. So, you know, does it need to be 20? Probably not. I mean, dropping that to 15 makes sense. I think having budget be at least 25 is very essential to numerically prioritizing for applicants what we feel is important. Okay. I don't know how that adds up.
Well, if we take budget plan and budget narrative and add feasibility to it, and it's 25,
okay.
But we still have needs assessment underneath at 20, and maybe that could be 15 or. And then
I agree to get it down to at least 15, and then we could move those points towards budget category and make it 30. So that will be pretty much 30% of the entire application. So
you'd like budget to be 30 points total?
Budget and feasibility.
Okay. Okay.
And
right.
needs
So
assessment over 15.
So all right, so just want to restate what I heard. So we take the 10 points from feasibility, move to
Budget.
Wait. Well, we're
We-
merging.
Yep, we
Merging.
rename it budget and feasibility.
And then needs, we're doing a -5 on needs, and where we put that.
Is budget. That's just, which is why it's 30 now, not 25.
Right, exactly. Perfect.
We're good?
I like it.
Are we moving? So,
Dr. Hopman's happy, just in case
Well,
anybody's
other people, I
wondering.
see a lot of thumbs that.
Are there thumbs?
Yeah.
All right.
can we move
Good
ahead?
job.
I have one clarifying question for the council, but I want to get to page 27 of the packet that you have, not of the slide deck, but of the RFA itself.
Mhm.
But we could also bump ahead to, I think it's I want to get to the feasibility assessment piece of the slides, just so I'm clear, because I think that if I understand correctly, and more. Yeah,
No,
that's
slide 15.
slide 15, yeah. So looking at this information, one option to accomplish that goal. So we said merging feasibility. Under the council's impression, is the payer mix at an institution relevant information then? Can we strike it and we should just leave it to the top element? Because again, I think that would mean that you could award, because remember, like, when you move points, you want to evaluate what I'm hearing is you guys want to evaluate, you all want like to evaluate the budget, narrative, and the budget plan. If you take the points from feasibility, like just making sure we're not just moving the points of feasibility, but awarding the budget analysis, if that makes sense. So like, just to be clear,
Yeah, you're gonna move these
Yeah.
buckets up.
if both of these go up, you're just moving 10 points to budget,
Uh-huh.
but you're still gonna score these two elements
Yes.
as 5 points.
Yes.
So you'd like to
Each.
retain all the elements. Okay, excellent. Okay. So do not,
Oh, I see what you're saying, though. I mean, again,
You're
full
not
comment for
getting
the
more
record.
points to
The
budget.
advantage of putting a few more points in budget, again, is the elements that someone cites in the budget really is a reflection of their understanding of what steps need to be taken.
Mhm.
I mean, if you don't have money set aside for simulation, if you don't have money set aside for, these different elements of building a program, then maybe there's an issue there.
okay. I guess what I'm wondering, like, if you go back to the budget or yeah, if we can go back to the budget plan. So just, I'm sorry, go forward to,
Sorry.
it's okay. This is complicated and I want to get it right. So when you score the applications, you're going to be scoring the plan at 10 points and the narrative at 5. By adding feasibility, you're still scoring the same information.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, you're
Yeah.
not, but if you would like to award more points to the budget plan, like where they're going to put their dollars,
We have to update that.
you have to update the number.
And Fry, for the record, so in feasibility analysis, number 3, which is 5 points, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think the payer mix is less of an issue.
Mhm.
I don't know if we need to call it out because it's just intrinsic to your
It's just information.
proposed budget, right? You either have the feasibility through your payer mix or you don't.
Right.
Do we need to call out the payer mix? Probably not. Maybe we should put those 5 points somewhere.
Well, and I guess, and so the logic behind that element was really more so in the, like, when it gets to applicants working with NVHA on future Medicaid reimbursement,
Right.
understanding, is there a opportunity? Because you can't just make a payment through Medicaid, like you have to tie it to Medicaid utilization. And so in doing so, you have to know where those applicants fall. But if they're committed to working with NVHA anyway, and NVHA knows who the applicants are, who the sponsoring institutions and providers are, there may not be a need for the applicants to measure that component of it, but it's a helpful piece to understand how that relationship between, future Medicaid opportunities and the applicants themselves. It's not like, I don't, I'm happy to adjust however the council would like us to adjust, but I just want that to be clear, because if you just move the points around,
Yeah, we
you're still
didn't do
stuck
anything.
with 10 points for the plan and 5 points for the narrative.
Yeah, but we did grab another 5 points from the needs assessment.
Right.
And I would argue we put that on 1 the plan.
The plan.
So it's 15. But anyway, Dr. Raven, what was your comment?
Thank you. I pretty much wanted to echo what you just said about moving those 5 points. And I think in the needs assessment, we have 10 points under 4.1 section overview of the needs. So if we make that a 5 and add those 5 points to the budget plan, that would be rebalancing.
Okay, so 4.1.1 provides an overview of the need to increase training. That drops from 10 to 5.
Correct.
And that 5 gets added to the budget plan. Budget, right?
Yes.
Correct.
And would you like that to be? Man, I wish I had like the whole. I wish I had it all like together so we could do this collectively, but it's not. It's not easy to do it. We're bouncing around. So,
So you're gonna create a 3.1234,
okay,
and it's gonna be budget and feasibility,
Mhm.
right?
yeah, but
And you're gonna keep the 1 and 2 under feasibility, but they're now gonna be 3 and 4.
right, I guess I'm asking, where would you all like the 5?
We said 3.1.
3.1
Yeah.
from the needs
The
assessment. Okay. From needs.
There's still, Vegas.
Yeah,
Their
Ross Berkeley
comment?
Ross Berkeley for the record. One other way to look at it too is that feasibility analysis 4.2, number 3 with the payer mix. That could also be rolled into part of the work plan because that needs to be part of their plan anyway. It's a financial element that they need to be considering in their work plan anyway. So I think you can reclaim those 5 points and just use them elsewhere because that really is part of 4.3, maybe number 2. In there already. They have to have a plan for how that payer mix impacts their ability to bill, collect, and to make sure that they're going to be viable in the long term.
And then where would you like to see where would the points then be moved from the 5? I just want to make sure I've captured all of them.
Yeah, I don't have a preference for where those points go. I'm just trying to find a way to reclaim some additional points that could be then reallocated so that to help and eliminate the feasibility analysis 10 points being allocated there.
Yeah. All right, so let me see here. So I'm just thinking out loud here then. So going back to the budget plan, we're currently at 15 points for the plan. If we took those 5 points from feasibility and put them in the narrative would be at 10 points. And then you're adding feasibility an additional 5. 5, 15, and that would put us at 30 points for budget.
That's what we
30 points.
that's what we talked about.
Okay.
The piece I missed is where do the 5 points from payer mix go? I heard payer mix, the act of reporting it, now is gonna fit under 4.3 sub 2.
Mhm.
We're gonna add it.
Yes.
We're gonna add payer mix there, and we're not gonna move any points to work plan.
No.
And we're gonna take the 5 points, and what are we doing with it? Are we just combining it to 4.2 sub 1? So it's 10?
For the narrative,
Yeah.
I think we're adding it under the narrative. So we added the 10 or 5 point to the plan. So that's 15, right? And then we're adding 5 points to the narrative, so that'd be 10.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because the first one would come from the needs assessment. The second 5 would come from feasibility.
Gotcha.
And then feasibility would be
Just that one element.
just that one element at 5 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you for bearing with me. I just wanted to make sure I understood. All right. Okay. Okay.
We did a check and make sure it adds up.
Now my numbers in my presentation are wrong, so thanks, guys.
But the new numbers add up.
The new numbers should add up to, yeah, because we haven't removed, we should all zero out and remain at 100.
All right. So,
Good. All All right, so
Did-
where do you want to go?
Did we
Oh
do
my
all the
gosh.
things already?
Yeah.
We got to go to cover sheet.
Do we want to talk just briefly about like, just to kind of summarize for the point total
Yeah.
where we're at then?
Let's
And
do
we'll
that.
just, we'll just
Perfect.
do that
Yeah.
because I think that makes sense. So the budget plan and budget narrative are now going to include it's going to be budget plan, budget narrative, and feasibility. The budget plan will be, we said 30 points, be 10, and then we're going to add feasibility, and that will be 5 points. Right? Yeah, 30 points. Underneath the project narrative assessment will be dropped down to 15 points. Feasibility analysis will be dropped to 5 points. The work plan and impact analysis is going to absorb the payer data, but will not transfer any points, so it will remain at 20 points. Data collection evaluation will remain 15. Sustainability will remain 15. And then letters of commitment will remain 5.
And feasibility won't be a separate line there. It'll be grouped with budget and feasibility.
Feasibility will be
above.
grouped
Yeah.
into budget and budget.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
This is helpful because that, the fact that the video showed up on YouTube afterwards, went back and listened to it like 3 times to make sure we captured all the comments and everything. So very helpful. Good. Good job. Okay.
Cover sheet, was there anything we needed to do?
No, I just wanted to show on the cover sheet. So like I said at the start, if this is going to become part of the administrative review process, again, making sure that we're capturing all this information from the applicants and from the applications themselves. The cover sheet gives the applicants an opportunity to basically tell the story of their program. But again, we want to note, like for partner information, for example, it's only if applicable. If they don't have partners in their application, they're not going to get dinged for not doing that. And so it doesn't mean it's an incomplete application. It's just if applicable. And I think if you go to the project abstract, the same is true there. Again, partner contributions, if applicable. Again, we want to make sure that we're not discounting or excluding applications that don't have information that just isn't applicable to their proposal.
So, but just maybe confirm that, we did try to list out all the specific things that are required to be considered complete.
Mm-hmm.
So are we good with this list of kind of items for each of these?
I'm just a little confused about the alignment with the governor's 3-year plan. I can picture that. I'm not sure how a individual is going to demonstrate that, and for Melinda and team are going to opine on that and either include the application forward or not. That makes me nervous.
I think the assessment's more, do they speak to it, not like, do we agree that it does align?
Yeah, and so just for going back to the document itself, so in the RFA on the cover sheet for the project abstract, the applicants are supposed to provide a description of how their proposal advances the governor's 3-year plan. And so it's just, they have to say.
We just have to write something in the box, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I agree with Paul, for the record, what we want to avoid is that there's subjectivity here. It doesn't align, maybe it's just a semantic thing.
Completed it, yeah.
Yeah, is it complete, or it's basically asking if all the boxes are filled out.
Did you fill out all the boxes? So again, I think that we can clarify that.
Okay.
So, okay. Let's move through these then relatively quickly, because I think we've got some pretty significant shifts that have occurred. Again, I think we've hit on all these elements as well. There'll be shifts that occur, and we'll review shortly. And I do want to point out, can you back to work really quickly? Just to point out, I think where possible, and again, because one of the things that we noted in the prior iteration of this was that there was more of an effort to essentially go through and itemize a review of the data elements that are provided. I want to point out here that as you all go through and review the proposals, they're more so aligned with sections of the proposal and what's submitted. So rather than getting an individual score on one individual element, it's like, did they do all the parts of the work plan under component A through J? Here we are.
Sorry.
It's okay.
There's your face.
And so really kind of hitting on those pieces, but also noting in the above section, it says, work plan and impact analysis should demonstrate how the application aligns with the stated priorities in section 2 of the RFA. So again, noting that there's not a separate 5 points for priorities, but this would be where you would be looking to determine have they described their assessment of their priorities, and is it included in their work? So, okay.
Well,
Cool.
all right, come on. Go.
Data collection and evaluation, again, I think just noting like the applications are gonna be, do they sufficiently describe the data will be collected? Applications sufficiently demonstrate how to measure the changes in the program, and just giving you guys an opportunity to evaluate their ability to collect this data.
Melinda?
Yep.
Is there something you want from applicants in this part so that it all rolls up? You know, you can tell the legislature in 2 years across the 8 programs we funded. And I just.
Yeah.
Are you talking about in the data
Well,
collection
yeah,
piece?
in this section, just to be able to, I know you guys can do a fine job of making the case, but if the applicants could actually help you a little bit, you know.
Right.
Just a thought. I don't want to blow the process anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would ask, like, is it expected that, you know, at the start, when they submit their applications, you know, they're gonna give you their best guess at the impact, but the real work is gonna be after the fact in the regular. So I mean, as
The
long as
monthly or
yes, I
quarterly
mean, having a
reporting.
regular process in which they're gonna review and determine. But again, and that goes back to, in the needs assessment, gathering and assessing the current other, you know, understanding where the gaps are and then measuring their success against some of those gaps. It might be where that push and pull exists.
Right. And I think that we can clarify that too in the quarterly and annual reporting
Okay.
that we're gonna do and just be really specific in there. Yeah. Thanks.
Sustainability plan, again, just getting regular feedback from you know, ongoing cost, gathering the annual cost of the ongoing training programs and annual ongoing cost of training for resident. Applicant provides an achievable plan for funding ongoing costs after the grant ends. Again, I think that's a really big component of sustainability. And then finally, because it was such an important priority, we also included applicant describes their willingness to work with the state. That's just one piece I think that has been really important up front, and so it felt worthwhile to give it its own data element and point score there. And then letters of commitment, again, it's making sure you've got all the pieces in place, and hopefully it would be an easy 5 points for applicants to achieve.
And are letters of commitment and letters of support are the same thing?
Letters of commitment are described in, yes, they're the same thing.
Okay.
Letters of commitment are described in it's on page 12,
Uh-huh.
and that's from the partners in universities.
Right. But then earlier you made a comment that they're not required if you don't have any, but yet we're assigning points.
Well, that goes back to the priorities, because remember the priorities talked about creating those partnerships and having them in place, and
so that gives priorities then.
yes.
I got you.
Yeah.
Dr. Raven?
Not that I have been asked to write a letter of support or letter of commitment from anybody at this point, but should I be approached for it? If I choose to provide this letter, does it mean that I automatically be disqualified to review the application and score it?
Dr. Raven, thank you for the question. I would not think so. I think as long as you're transparent in that and come out with that, you know, stated conflict, but prior to, you know, stating your scores and all of that, that way that the public and the council knows. I think that that's helpful.
Right. So, Fry, for the record, I would suggest combining these 2.5 categories, because the danger is it's a mathematical issue. You could provide letters that are complete on letterhead and sign that aren't worth a hill beans, but get 2.5 points. I think a combined 5-point is much better because some of these applications are gonna come in scoring very, very close to each other.
Yeah, like that.
All right.
Yeah, there's no point to number one.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even understand.
Fair point.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, just to showing up, you get.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I got some really cool letterhead. Let me show it to you.
All right. This is a new one. I wanted to just highlight. It was something that we discussed really regarding that 5 bonus points in the prior iteration of the RFA. And, I think that I think it was Dr. Raven that was talking about, like, how do we identify, applications that did a really good job of something, and how do we reward that in points? And it's harder to do that necessarily like in a more objective scoring metric. So because these are going to be made public and because we talked about transparency, we thought it'd be a really good opportunity then for the reviewers to go through and say, all right, these were the things I really liked about this. These were the areas where it was more deficient. It doesn't affect scoring, but it does provide you all with an opportunity to really highlight those strengths and weaknesses so that when you have your discussion about the applications, it would give you a good starting point.
Like
to say,
notes for the discussion.
Exactly. And so, we worked with our team internally, and I think that this provides you with some good opportunities to call out some of those things, in particular where it relates to the priorities in section 2. Without having a point total assigned to it, it gives you kind of a quick location where all this information can be
The
captured.
second bullet there, approved but pending edits to the proposal. Are we really allowing edits? I thought the whole point was we're not going back and forth with the proposals. They either make whatever's there is is that not what because how are we gonna give that opportunity to every single,
Exactly.
every single application? Dr. Raven?
Two comments. One is on free texting about strengths and weaknesses. I think it's a great idea to have it there, but I also want to warn in our transparency that if we choose to publish those comments, that we would not assign them to a particular reviewer for public knowledge. And on the pending edits for proposal, I think we discussed possibilities when we may not have a lot of money or full sum to award, but perhaps we want to go back to the applicant and say, would you be able to survive, let's say, not on 3 million, but on 2.5? I'm curious if there is a different way to reflect it in overall recommendations. I would be happy with that. I do remember discussion about not having that back and forth because it may not be fair to other applicants. But just in case if we have to revise the funding level before we actually approve it, I'm curious if we have that leverage.
Okay, Dr. Hopman?
Paul Hopman for the record, I understand the point, but realistically, of course, every program will say, sure, I'll take the 2.5 million. They're not going to say, sorry, I need the full 3 and otherwise I'm not going to accept it. It's very similar to what happens at the NIH. You submit a grant. Sometimes they give that grant a haircut. They don't ask, is that okay? You accept the money as is and you move forward. Part of that decision is, on us to make sure that we still think it's viable. If we give a grant proposal a haircut, that we're doing that with the assumption that it's still all systems go for that particular program. So I would agree with Chris that that second bullet seems. I don't know if we want to go that direction and have those sort of back and forth. We either approve it at the full budget, or we approve it at a different funding level, or we don't approve.
But not make edits to the proposal necessarily, absent adjustment to funding.
I just think that Stacy's comment stuck with me from earlier today about how do we then support our position that we gave everybody a chance to edit their proposal.
Right, good point.
And since we're not doing that, then.
So Chris, just for clarity, and so if we eliminate that second line, but keep the third line, all right? Say we go from 3 to 2.5, the question, and maybe we should get a program on record, the applicant on record, does this still create viability and sustainability for you at this funding level? That's a yes or no.
They'll say yes.
They'll say
Well,
yes,
then
but I
that's
think we
fine.
should put that on record, I guess, is what I'm saying, because
Yeah,
There
I mean,
may
a
be some-
modification like that would probably be a yes,
Yeah.
but I could picture we only have $500,000 left. That $3 million project, we're only gonna fund $500,000. They may say, no, I'm gonna apply next funding cycle.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, I think, but again, I think that may be for us to decide. I mean, if you're taking someone's $3 million proposal and only giving them 5, you may say, let's carry that money over because
Yeah.
we don't believe it's
I
it's no
gotcha.
longer viable because
Right.
Yeah.
it doesn't look like they have another 2.5 million lying around.
Yeah, when I've scored the HRSA grants, I haven't done NIH. You basically get 2 options. One is to approve as requested. And then if you're modifying or say something at a different level, it has to be attached to a deficiency, not just, a deficiency in the application. Like the 60,000 is not an eligible expense. That's why I'm going to ratchet it down.
Yeah.
But I think it's really up to the health authority to decide. Because it's going to be a limited pool of money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I guess because to that point, I wonder if then the language here would be kind of reflective of the first instance in which you've got a proposal, but you need to reduce kind of the scope of the proposal in order to adjust funding, right? That's option number 1. But if you're talking about at a different funding level, that could be for a variety of reasons. Primarily, like you included ineligible
Non-allowable.
funding potentially. And so is there a difference, like if they put in a request for $3 million, but they have $50,000 of ineligible funding, you're talking about, 2.95, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at something and say, hey, we're going to fund it at a different level, that applicant has to adjust their approach as well.
Yeah.
So you're not just asking them to take a cut, you're asking them to adjust their proposal.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's an appetite.
It's still
for
a different
either.
level.
Yeah, it's a different level. And maybe maybe it would be approved, but pending,
Acceptance,
yeah,
maybe.
and that just be combined into one, and then
Yep. And if
whatever the
it's not
rationale is.
accepted, then the money rolls to the next period. Dr. Raven, I see you. Did you have something additional?
Yes, and sorry if it's too hypothetical scenario, but let's say we have $3 million left in the budget after allocating the rest of the money, and we have 2 programs that scored identically. Are we going to tell them it's like, hey, take $1.5 million each, and if you don't agree, sorry, running the risk that both programs may say, well, we're going to try again next year, and then we have $3 million that did not get awarded and 2 programs that could have operated on that $3 million budget? Or would there be a different mechanism of looking at whatever money is left on the table and maybe reapproaching those 2 applicants to see if we could still have a kind of deal breaker?
The proverbial flipping of the coin, huh?
Right.
Personally, I feel like we're going to have to deal with those things as they come. I don't think we can set this up in advance with the answer to that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We're probably just going to have to work our way through and see if there are differentiating characteristics or not, or ask them to apply in the next cycle.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I would say that I think approved, but pending acceptance of modification might be a way.
Maybe we simplify this.
Yeah.
And I would say you have 3 categories: approved, not approved, and the middle one is we are requesting as a body additional information. That's our prerogative.
I don't think
For clarification's sake on whether a particular item qualifies or not.
But again, this is Chris's concern that reflecting Stacy's concern
Right.
that we may have to then have all applicants
Yeah.
do
get to
that.
provide additional information.
No, they don't get to provide it. We get to request something very specific for clarity only. So it's not approved, it's not disapproved. It's that we need to know something in order to move forward on a decision. And we don't know what that is. I'm just trying to anticipate that problem.
I mean, I suppose we could do this informally. Sorry, Paul happened
Yeah.
for the record, where Melinda and your team can, if we get into that situation, call the program up and say, listen, we have a different budget level. We have some concerns. I don't know, and not make it so like another
Yeah.
formal process I mean, that again, I just love, the NIH process would be the program officer would call the applicant and say, I just want to check in with you and let you know we're not going to fund the microscope that you're going to, it's your equipment. And then
Yeah.
they'll say, fine,
Thank you.
thank you.
I
That's
think
what they'll
that's kind
say.
of where I'm liking the language like approved but pending acceptance of the modified proposal made by the council, on the application.
But that applies to the third bullet as well, approved, but at a different funding level. We're
Well, I
not going
think-
back and
yes.
asking.
I think it would be, folded into each.
Yeah.
It would be like encompassing of both.
Still only be three
Combined sort of.
bullets.
Yeah.
And the role
Recap.
of the role of the reviewer could
Pending
be as,
modification.
Right.
the role of the reviewer could be as simple as, I approve this, but is X an eligible expense?
Yeah.
So what I heard was approved, not approved, and then the middle box is approved pending acceptance of the modification.
Yeah, or a modification.
Yeah, and I would even caution on using the word approved, because it's not quite approved yet, right? You're trying to understand whether you can put the stamp on it.
Well, I don't believe this is filled out by the reviewer. This is at
No.
the end of the entire.
This is our
process.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, I mean, this was intended to be, I think, for each individual review.
Yeah, this
That's
is
what
for
I
us.
Oh,
This isn't, yeah.
then I would agree. Then it shouldn't be here.
Just approved, not approved for the
Yeah.
individuals.
That last overall
So,
recommendation
take a look.
would be taken out because the cumulative score is going to drive the discussion
True.
when that time comes.
And then the boxes, strengths and weaknesses, all that.
Okay.
So Paul Hammond, for the record, this may be an opportunity to discuss. There's one of the discussion points, and that is for my colleagues to consider, does everybody review every application essentially as a primary reviewer? Or do we have, let's say, a primary and secondary reviewer who then are tasked with, when we meet as a group, describing the application in detail? And then there's a general discussion and a scoring by everyone on that basis. That's, again, I don't want to be a broken record. That's how it would work in the NIH process. So that.
How many applications do we get?
Well, we don't know, and we will only know after the fact. If we got, it's going to be more than 2, I can tell you. But if it's 6, right, we can review 6. But I'm concerned if it's 15.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
I'm with
heavy
you.
lift.
I agree.
And I think what the ask would be is that, get each one a look, but we're not going to be asking you to assign a point to everything. I mean, it's really qualitatively, what are the major strengths and weaknesses? You should be prepared to discuss it when the primary and secondary, or primary, secondary, and tertiary reviewer come to the table to describe the application.
So the interesting part, and I was kind of thinking about this when we were looking at this outline, previously, there was this process included a presentation by the person filling out the application. So the person originating the application would be there to answer questions and it was a back and forth. And we're saying these applications will stand on its own with no additional information.
Yes.
That's what we're saying. And I just think that's important to note for both the people filling out the applications and there won't be any back and forth. It will be whatever is in your application is what's happening in your program.
That's how the grant world works. I mean,
I
I
understand.
think that it adds a level of subjectivity.
Mhm.
If someone verbally flubs something and you go, well, this,
Right. Right,
the
or left it
application's
out and
wrong.
tries to cover with their verbal
right.
stuff that they didn't include in the application,
Right.
either way. Okay, so back to, we didn't land the plane on are each of us going to review every single application? And maybe we want to do this, then that. So if there's more than 10, we want to consider a different I'm being silly, I don't know the number, but is there a number over which we'd say, yes, primary and secondary reviewers sounds great? Because we can't review 100.
Right.
So, or do we want to decide later when we see it?
I think we decide later.
Because she's going to push them out.
Yeah.
And so,
Let's see what
I
the
mean,
body
do we
of work
just
looks
have
like.
like a quick meeting, like a
Yep.
quick
yeah,
public meeting after we get the applications and say, look, these, you
yeah,
know,
this is how many.
yeah, this is how many complete applications we received. And go from there.
Is that all right with everybody? That we decide later? Dr. Raven, sorry.
Just curious, are we going to wait for the deadline for applications to come before we start reviewing or pre-clearing applications? Or are we going to perhaps start reviewing them as they come, even as new applications may still be submitted?
I think we're going to review them all at once after the administrative review happens,
Yep,
which will happen after the deadline.
yep,
That's what the calendar looks like.
yep.
Thank you.
And Melinda's shaking her head, or nodding, sorry, not shaking, she's nodding.
Besides, in the real world, if the deadline were February 16th, I can tell you most of the applications will come in on February 15th at 11 PM.
Yeah. We won't be getting them early, is what you're saying? Okay, fine. All right, so given where we are, I just want to recap this scoring summarization. I think what we decided was overall recommendation, we're going to delete that segment because they aren't approved, not approved, or whatever. And if this is our scoring summarization, our individual scoring summarization, I like, maybe instead it's other notes or something, you keep a box or, if that's helpful to people, I don't know. But we're not going to say approved pending or whatever. At the end of the day, we're going to have to figure out where we draw the line, given our limited resources, and the points. And the last application or two may be something where we talk about partial funding, and we're just going to do that in our conversation. Okay.
Beautiful. One more thing.
Huh?
And maybe that makes it easy, but I apologize in advance, Melinda, if this adds work to your load. I think the summary of the application may be an administrative summary rather than a subjective council by council member summary of each one. Let's summarize. They have this vision, this budget, the key points, if you will, administratively, because then we can each individually speak to the strengths and weaknesses of the application as we review it. But I don't know if that feels good or not.
I mean, I'm open to it.
Because really, it's just it's like an abstract for a paper, right?
Uh-huh.
You're just hitting the key points on the abstract.
Will that be in the abstract already? Is that what the abstract does?
Yeah, should be.
Yeah, could be.
An administrative summary of the application.
Brief summary of the project, the plan and the benefits, describe specific measurable objectives and or goals, and contributions of partners, and then description of how the proposal advances state's position workforce goals as stated in the governor's plan.
Can we ask in that abstract the 3 questions that you'd want? Because I do think there is some risk in having poor Melinda and her friends fill it out.
In a week, I would add.
Yeah.
I just think the strengths and weaknesses are the major points. In my mind, that's the meat on this bone.
Yeah, sure. And the points.
Our individual perception of the strengths and weaknesses of each of these.
So what items would we want to add to the abstract that each person would fill out?
I think we can leave it
Cost,
alone.
you don't want it? Okay,
Well,
overall cost, number
Do you
of.
want to strike the summary in that instance? I mean,
I just think, I think we say, here's the score, my individual score. Here's the strengths and weaknesses that I thought this application had. And my general comments and recommendations.
Is this the thing that's going to get published?
Yeah.
This thing right here? Okay.
Paul,
So
comment
all
to the record.
comments.
Melinda, can I assume though, I think maybe Dr. Raven asked this question before. I want to make sure that the scoring and the weaknesses and strengths and so forth are not individually attributed to a panel member. It needs to be anonymized. Otherwise, I think this is going to be really problematic for review for us.
I'm gonna have to go back to legal counsel on that, just because, I mean, this is open public meeting, it's the open.
And we're gonna say our
process,
scores
And
out
we're
loud.
going to talk about our scores, like, I'll walk through that later of how the meeting will take place with the evaluation, because we'll have each council member will go through and say, this is my score on this section, this is my score on this section.
Why does that part have to be, I'm no lawyer, but the question is why does that have to be public? When grants are to say at the NIH, that's not open to the public. That is a closed door.
Yeah.
Phones off.
We're not the
session.
NIH though,
Yeah,
and this
we're
is
a
public.
public body.
Well, but NIH is public too. It's
But I-
federal.
I would
Yeah,
say
but this is not research.
Well, but
This is
but again,
operational.
but as a reviewer, I think you have to accord a certain amount of protection to the reviewer. Otherwise, you're not going to get you may not get the sort of honest reviews, because this is a small state, people know each other, and if someone from UHC, if I'm writing a review and it may cause offense by a program I know and people I know.
So Melinda is gonna get clarification from legal to tell us what exactly has to be shared publicly by indivical.
And may
Dr.
I
Fry
offer-
and then Dr. Raven.
I might be able to offer a nice suggestion here. Much like an M&M, which is morbidity and mortality at a hospital level, or quality reviews, it is anonymized. And I think if I presented the data as a reviewer laid out, I'm just basically reading the record, if you will. That satisfies, I think, the openness, the transparency we're all speaking to, but it doesn't necessarily say when I review it, oh, this was Dr. Hauptman's review, I'm going to read it now. It basically gives me the opportunity to read, and they don't know who did it, right? But I'm reading for the public record.
So Melinda is gonna respond to us about what
Yeah.
has to
No, I
be,
hear you.
if the scores, if
Yeah.
if
Comment.
the comments, whatever, if it could be that we all submit them in advance and then we have a discussion about it. Because historically, I think we just have scores listed and they were blinded. You know, they were like 1 through 20 of us, and then you could see how the scores fell. But whatever it needs to be, we need to follow what the requirement is.
Yep. Oh, good clarification.
And I do appreciate the comment that's being made. You know, you want the best scores, but we also need to follow what the requirements are.
Well,
Sorry, Dr.
Sorry, if I
Raven.
can make just
One
one more
more.
last, I mean, it does set up, I mean, Melinda, when you speak to legal, you know, the potential for actually increased conflict of interest, in sort of a backwards way. I don't want to offend, a colleague at another institution, and therefore I'm not going to really speak my mind on this application. It doesn't let us, as a reviewer, because we're concerned about those issues, come forward with what we consider the most objective review.
It's a just culture, actually, phenomenon.
And there's, concerns about retaliation, and then, if subsequently I want to, it sets up a dynamic that I think it could be very harmful.
Okay, gotcha. Dr. Raven.
Yes, hopefully my comment will generate less discussion, but for the last box about approved or not approved, since none of us have can single-handedly approve for this or not approve applications, can we say overall recommendation approve or not approve, not approve?
I think, Dr. Raven, we decided to eliminate the bottom box.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Because we won't individually decide if they're approved.
All right.
And we won't know where the line needs to be drawn. So I think our feedback as individual scorers will be the score and then strengths and weaknesses. And other comments that we might have that we want to highlight to share with the group, but we won't be determining approval individually.
So
Thank you.
if I could-
Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah.
So if I could summarize then, are we retaining, so we're removing the overall recommendation box?
Yep.
Is that right? Are we retaining the summary of application box? So that was something we said it might default to the project abstract.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the abstract.
Yeah, okay. And then we're removing overall recommendation. So that leaves us with overall
There's
objective
also a
review.
suggestion to put like notes to NHA.
Notes.
And, you know, when we score versus applications, it's almost always a budget issue.
Yeah.
Just an avenue to put a note in there without.
Would that be sufficiently captured by general comment?
Yes.
I,
yeah, don't you think?
well, general comments, I interpret that as just being general comments on the overall strength of the application, you know.
Okay.
Are you looking to call out a line item, John, like budgetary concerns, something like that?
It's not speaking to, it's speaking to NHA, not the.
NDHA.
Yeah.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Okay. Okay, Dr. Drew.
All right, so are we adding a recommendation, or is it a recommendation then to add just a general notes field or?
I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of us are gonna write wherever we write anyway, so.
Fair
Chris
enough.
will do whatever.
Yeah.
And
And
by the
so will
way,
all you.
we're not handwriting this. This is.
Of course,
typed in,
of
right?
course, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
Don't worry.
I have to call the question.
I don't know. I might be handwriting it.
Magic part.
All right. And so any other
Right.
comments on the scoring summary?
Trust the doctor with good writing.
Okay. So where are we?
Discussion
Is this-
items. We have, just doing a time check, we have about 15 minutes.
Okay, we gotta go.
So lastly, I just want to share it for everybody's awareness, and this is in the document itself. Use the suggested scoring guidelines from HRSA so that where something has, 20 points, for example, these are the measures you would use to consider, what's a poor versus satisfactory, good, very good, et cetera, measure. So just to give you some parameters as you're going through so that it's
That's
uniform
helpful.
across the board. Okay. So for discussion items really quickly, there were only a few comments, I think, on the scoring matrix, but the one commenter asked if the primary applicant name in the introductory section of the scoring matrix was referring to the sponsoring institution. And I think the answer to that generally has been yes, but I do note that there are a few elements that talk about like applicant and sponsoring institution. So I want to just make sure that if in general in the past, has the primary applicant been the sponsoring institution? And should we define that further here?
I think we should know if they have a sponsoring institution or not.
Right.
Well, I think they have to.
Mhm.
So personally, I think we should define primary applicant as sponsoring institution. And then somewhere underneath there, we should probably have primary contact. So, because I do think both will be important. But
Okay. Yeah, and
the check part would be the sponsoring institute, would be the primary applicant, like who would we send the check to?
right.
Or
It does
make the
have,
check out to.
it does have a point of contact in
Yep,
the
primary
information.
contact, great.
The next comment kind of goes back to the discussion about the ACGME certification. And I think because the council has recommended and voted to say that only ACGME certified programs are qualified to participate, that I think bullet number 2 seems potentially extraneous, but want to propose. One commenter asked if there should be an additional line in the cover sheet for the designated institutional official, further stating that without the DIO, the grant cannot meet the ACGME certification requirements. And so I just want to see if there's any strong feeling one way or the other about including this information in the cover sheet requirements.
I think it's nice to call it out in the sense that 1, 2, and 3 specifically called out just makes it really clear from the get-go
what the status
It's
of the
pretty
program
easy,
is.
yeah.
Yep,
Either a current program or planning for a program that's ACGMA
gotcha.
compliant, and you have a DIO.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's just really clear.
Those seem
Yeah.
reasonable things to add. Dr. Netsky, I saw your hand up earlier, or you put it down because you no longer have a question?
Well, it really speaks to this. I think there is real risk of granting money to an organization that is not an ACGME institution, that doesn't have their institutional accreditation, because they can't apply for a program without it, and the time to become a sponsoring institution can be very lengthy. And so my assumption is that it is implied that organizations that have institutional accreditation is the minimum bar.
Correct.
So should that be in our, should we move that to your point, should we move that to our pass-fail list? So we're not reviewing applications?
Seems reasonable.
If it's in the cover sheet, it would become one of those bullets, I think.
Okay.
The pass fail.
Okay,
Seems reasonable.
thank you. And you'll be looking at it for
Yeah,
that. I like
All right.
it.
we watch
Thank
it.
you
Okay,
for doing that work.
thank you.
We
Next.
appreciate it.
One commenter sought clarification, they used the phrase proposed, number of proposed slots, asking when, at what point in the proposal is that should that number be reflected? Would it be at full maturity, after 4 years when the funding runs out, after the first year of launch of a new program, or additional slots projected for an established program? And I think our understanding of the number of proposed slots to be included would reflect the number of proposed slots they propose to add over
Correct.
the course of the grant program. But want to make sure that the council agrees with that interpretation.
I don't know about the tie to funding, but the ad
Mm-hmm.
per year and in total.
Yes.
Yeah, because it speaks
Yeah.
to maturity.
Yeah, I mean, it may be that the funding is only for 2 years, but it's a 4-year program or a
Right.
5-year program,
Right.
right?
The other thing is that, so the fact that there are all these questions to define what you mean by number of proposed slots suggests that applicants are going to be asking.
Yep.
What do we actually mean by this?
Mhm.
So FAQs we need.
It could be an
Yeah.
FAQ,
Yeah.
what we mean by number of proposed slots.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Scores and scoring. Again, I think this goes back to the discussion we already had. So number one, I think we resolved because we are moving totals around. The comment suggesting adding more points to sustainability. Again, I think we've moved a significant portion of points around. I don't know if we have, we would want to pull from other places to move sustainability points into that section of the scoring, but want to put it out for the council to consider.
Any comments?
Okay. And then finally, I think to your point, Dr. Hubman, about having a process by which you might consider a panel potentially of reviewers on certain applications. I do want to note, though, that we did talk about that during the last meeting about the number of the council would be reviewing certain applications. And so if you note on page 21 of the RFA itself, there is language in there that says members of the council will each score applications individually, after which the council will discuss the score afforded to each application. So we'd have to that's the intent, is to move to a panel. We'd have to modify that in some way to reflect that the revised scoring method. And again, I don't know if it, if it's a hard, line in the sand, each applicant review, but I just kind of giving something.
Where is
consider.
that?
12.
Page 12, sorry, yeah, section 5, middle of the paragraph, very bottom.
Section 5. I'm just wondering if there's some way to make it silent. Because
Yeah, I mean, it just says right now, it's each member, we can just say members of the council.
Yeah.
We'll score.
But make it silent and we'll decide if there's.
So just to be clear, I think that if we have a primary, secondary, tertiary, if we go that route, ultimately at the end of the day, my expectation was every panel member will put in a final score and it will be equally weighted by each panel member. It's just that the primary and secondary stimulate the discussion, provide the in-depth, and then there can be a back and forth. New information may come in that influences your decision-making, and then every panelist will score, and it's just the average of everyone. It's not going to be driven by the two lead.
So maybe it's.
And the primary reviewers could adjust their.
And the primary reviewers can adjust their scores because they're going to get feedback from their colleagues on the panel.
And to speak to the, at least the board medical examiner's process, when we present cases in open meetings, we often have a primary person associated to presenting that particular case where somebody's up before the board to speak to, either actions or the licensure issues or whatnot. And so it engenders like, you're going to be super well prepared for that one presentation.
Right.
Above all others.
Sure.
Which may facilitate efficiency.
But still, each member would review, would be have familiarity with.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe it
it's
doesn't
okay.
need to be modified.
Great.
Okay.
Next.
Excellent.
All right.
Just, I think one commenter suggested on box 4, project narrative overview, be shaded a different color. I didn't, I think in our estimation, we could certainly do that, but wanted to see if there was any sort of issue or confusion associated with what the applicant's trying to reflect in the page 26 box. It just summarizes the ensuing section of scores. And it's in the, like, in this section here, where it just captures like, hey, these are the summary of all the scores, for example.
Yeah. That's
Anybody?
Do you feel strongly one way or the other? We're making some modifications, but.
I don't care.
Okay. All right. We can leave it. We can leave it there, but I think that's the last one.
All right. So here we are. We went through all the pieces. I feel like there were so many changes on the scoring piece. What do you think, Melinda? Do you think we hold the vote on the scoring rubric till we actually get it again?
I might recommend that we schedule another council meeting in the very near future to do that very thing, go over the scoring matrix again and just have that finalized.
Just make sure.
Yeah, like 1 hour, like very short meeting.
Quick.
Also to address the, get legal counsel's input on the transparency and all of that. And then we can talk about next steps and timeline at that point as well.
That sounds wonderful.
Yay.
And then
Thank
maybe
you
we
for
can
that.
also codify the process of having somebody be a presenter that you're
Yeah.
assigned,
Yeah,
as a
let's talk
presenter.
about that.
Well,
right.
And it may be that we have 10 applications and we can review them all and
There you
we
go.
don't need to.
Yeah.
But we should have a plan B.
Well, even if let's say it's only 8 applications we review I still think it adds value that there's someone that
That's
leads the
not-
discussion.
That's not
Yeah.
the applicant, is
No,
what you're
for
saying.
sure
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the applicant.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And we could randomly assign.
Yeah.
Happening.
go to public.
Okay. So
Nice job.
with that,
Bossy. My goodness.
nice job, everybody in the room. Thank you,
minutes
thank you.
there.
We have 2 minutes. And Melinda, public comment.
All right, public comment. No action may be taken under a matter raised under public comment period unless the matter itself has been specifically included as an agenda item, as an action item. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment? All right, hearing none, we can move on to the last agenda item.
All right. Move for adjournment.
Motions.
Second.
All right. Anybody opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Didn't think you could do it.
1.5 minutes left.
Nice job, everyone.
You can run a meeting.
You guys did great.
Yeah, Chris, just reach out. Whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
will.
your comments. Thank you so much.
I'll